The protagonist was the CDO of a gaming company that has been enjoying absolute success. The company he runs has been making millions, and he seems to be a genius at investments and a legend when it comes to making money. He has the Midas touch, everything he touches turns to gold, he's the prodigy boy. But all of this seems to be the life our protagonist led. It's not known how he died, but right now he's in the college dorm room. Voices call for someone named Qian, saying he'll be late. It's the university vice president's class, and they have to sign the attendance sheet. When he wakes up, his friend has a psychopathic smile looking at him. He's confused, and the friend leaves the room saying he'll be in trouble if caught. This is our protagonist, Pai Qian, 19 years old. As he looks at the door, he realizes it's 2009, and he's gone back 10 years. He pinches his cheek, but realizes he's not dreaming. And like a good reincarnate, the little system appears. The wealth conversion system is linked to the host. Some information is shown, including an initial capital of $50,000 in personal assets. He'll receive money from the system to manage any company. And the profit or loss the company incurs will turn into money in his account. However, for every $100 profit, he earns $1 in his account, and for every $1 loss, he also earns $1, meaning it's 100 times more advantageous for the company to lose money. He just needs to create a company that loses a lot. Look at the smirk he gives when he's thinking about how bright the future will be. The system asks for the company name, and he puts in Soaring Tenga. And the system warns that the next calculation date will be in 14 days. But they will be postponed if he doesn't have any products announced. Our protagonist says it's much easier to lose money than to earn it. If in his past life he was a successful investor with 10 years worth of memories, he'll do everything to lose as much as possible. He already knows everything that will be profitable, so he just needs to not invest anything for it to have a chance of succeeding. The only question left is what kind of company he should open. He has a mental conference with 5 versions of himself. It's the first meeting of the challenge to see who can lose the most money. One of them raises his hand and warns him that the system has various restrictions. He can't use the money for illegal investments, real estate speculation. He can't keep buying useless materialistic items, and he can't buy cryptocurrencies. Basically, the money has to be used in the company with the intention of making it succeed, but it has to fail. The world he's in is very similar to the one he lived in. The only differences are that the technology is slightly more advanced, and copyright protections are also slightly better. Thinking about these two cases, he imagines that making games would be a good idea, explaining to his mental clones that it's very easy to consume capital by making games. Not to mention that games are volatile. At any moment, people's interests can change. Or they can get tired of the game, all of which causes many players to leave and them to incur losses, which is very good. Not to mention the best part of games is that there's nothing physical. So after bankruptcy, they really end up with nothing but debts and a bunch of useless code. The other clone says that with memories of the last 10 years, they know exactly what kind of games people want. Just avoid those and everything will be fine. Now they're already excited. Step 1. Make a crappy game. Step 2. Convert the losses into personal assets. Step 3. Every $1 of loss turns into profit and he becomes rich. In this life, he'll lose a lot of money, but he'll be the most successful person. Next chapter, the first game has been released. Someone is driving a truck on a desert road thinking that the graphics of that game are horrible. Also, the steering wheel is too stiff, and the sound is extremely tedious. But the guy adjusts his glasses, saying he's played a lot of bad stuff, and this is quite common, so he's used to it. The only strange thing is that the game is too boring. He's been driving for ages. 10 more minutes pass, and he says he can't take it anymore. Looking ahead, he starts having an emotional crisis. Who am I? What do I do? What does this game want from me? I just keep driving forward without stopping. There are no curves, nothing. This game doesn't show any change. At this moment, the guy realizes something. Wait, this is just like my life. Extremely boring and unchanging. He decides he needs to stop playing this for a bit, but when he clicks to pause, there's no pause. He's infuriated with this damn game. What kind of game doesn't have a pause? But he also thinks that his life is like that, no pauses, you have to keep going even when you don't want to. Suddenly, he crashes into a pillar, and the game asks if he wants to try again. He's outraged. He's been driving forward for 30 minutes, and the game is asking if he wants to try again. He's made up his mind. After he finishes eating, he's going to turn this game into content for his channel of horrible games. Back at the university, our protagonist is watching the guy's video. Who says the game is basically a straight line with some curves occasionally. If you fail, you have to start from scratch. But he found it brilliant that the game humiliated him in the end by saying, "Congratulations on wasting 8 hours of your life. That's when he realized that the creator's goal with this game was to create a reflection, to make you wonder why you're spending so much time on it. In the comments, people are loving the game, saying that the 8 hours are almost meditative. For those who need to find a new direction in life, it's perfect to play this while thinking about your future. Our protagonist is angry. He created it to be the most boring and stupid thing. So why are they so excited, saying that this game changed their lives? He goes to the comments and warns, "I'm the developer of the game and deliberately made it terrible. It's not for you to think there's any message in it. It's crap, so don't buy it. It's not worth it." But people don't care, saying they bought it to have fun with friends just for the heck of it. And they're really enjoying it. Our protagonist is confused. Something's wrong with this world, or is he going crazy? He did everything to create the most tedious and boring game possible. So why did a big streamer play it and like it? Worse still, he promoted it to a bunch of people. With that, the $50,000 he was supposed to earn turned into $700. Our hero is shaken and spitting blood. He then has to have another mental conference and announces it's an emergency meeting. He never imagined that horrible game would sell 200,000 copies, and after deducting all the investment, they made a profit of 70,000. From 100 to 1 turned into 700. He drinks a coffee, saying there's no use crying over spilt milk. They need to discuss now how they're going to spend the next $50,000. One of the clones says maybe the best thing to do is to bring in someone to help. Someone who's a failure. Someone who can't succeed with any game, and suddenly the protagonist has an idea. He knows the perfect person who's always been by his side. Someone who ruins everything they touch, the best companion to drag the team down. At this moment, the friend named Mei Yang enters his room, saying he brought some food for both of them. Our protagonist tells him he's the perfect person. He's a bit confused there, and the scene changes to a bar where everyone is toasting and eating. Mei Yang asks why he suddenly invited him to eat. Did he get some money? In a way, he did. $700 and lost $50,000 because of it. The poor guy worked day and night to have $900 in the account, and now he's crying. But he realizes that the system has some kind of minimum value, and anything below that is completed by the system. This time he received $300,000 and needs to spend it all. Mei Yang tells him to eat, but our protagonist says he's developing a game and asks if he's interested in participating. Mei Yang is startled, asking where he got the money to do something like this, and Pai Qian invents that he's from a wealthy family and his father gave him $300,000 to venture out. Mei Yang asks if he knows how to program or do design. Pai Qian obviously says no. Who cares about that? Just buy some cheap design packages and it's fine. But Mei Yang says he's unsure. It's strange to spend so much money. What if they lose everything? Pai Qian gets angry. Now this damn guy is suddenly full of conscience. How is he going to convince this guy to lose money with him? But the damn guy is going to use failure for success. He gives a little cough and asks, "Have you heard of the game Solitary Desert Highway?" Mei Yang says he has. It's that stupid game where you drive for 8 hours aimlessly. Pai Qian then reveals he created it, and Mei Yang spits his coke across the table and asks, "You created that damn thing? If that's the case, I changed my mind. I didn't know you had that much talent, brother. If you had enough talent to turn that trash into a famous business, I'm with you. I'm not good at anything, but I'm reliable." He rushes off, saying he'll read everything about game development to be the best and help his friend. Pai Qian wanted to stop him, but the guy was already gone, and now there's nothing to be done. But this guy has never done anything good in his life, right? The only problem is that he's a bit too enthusiastic, so is it a good idea to hire him? That same night, when Mei Yang returned to the room, he had a ton of books. From programming to game design. There's even a book about neck pain, since he's going to be working a lot. Pai Qian finds it impressive, but the damn guy isn't a programmer. So he just congratulates him, saying it looks like I hired the right person. Mei Yang thanks him, saying that's great. He'll start with high-level programming for beginners. Reading the book, he says he understands the individual words, but nothing beyond that. Pai Qian thinks he just bought those to take up space. Then he tells Mei Yang, focus on design, not programming. Besides, the content of those books is outdated. Mei Yang replies, that's why these useless books were all on sale. What do I do with them now? Pai Qian tells him, just take a quick look at those books and then we'll reimburse them as a company expense. Mei Yang thanks him and is impressed, but decides he'll study a bit. Later, he fell asleep with the book on his face. Pai Qian pounds the table excitedly. Thank goodness. He has a lot of willpower, but really, his skill is zero. It's this kind of person that I need. It's just a pity there isn't a bunch more of him. A company like that would be perfect for sure. But now it's time to confirm exactly what he's going to do with the $300,000. in case of losing the $300,000. He takes out some Yu-Gi-Oh style cards, and Mei Yang asks, "Are you trying to create a mobile card game?" Pai Qian says that's the idea. They're going to create a card game based on the Three Kingdoms, and he's already bought all the basics. Mei Yang asks, "Did you see that the Three Kingdoms are trending and want to use them as a reference?" But there are several companies already making mobile card games, and besides, there are several that are very popular, and it's all very common. But obviously, that's Pai Qian's plan. He's going to develop a card game in the fiercest and most competitive genre of all. That way, a bad game won't stand out. With so many others on top, obviously, it won't attract much attention. This time, he'll definitely lose. In the mental meeting, they were discussing that current card games have a payment limit. This is so people can't reach the top of the rankings just by spending money. They have an idea. What if they set the payment limit extremely high? One of the clones says, "But then the players will criticize, right? Because whoever has more money will win." But one of them adjusts his glasses and says it's dangerous. What if a millionaire comes along and spends a lot of money? They'll end up winning again. Those guys who buy a dragon's sword and level 1 armor will get screwed. He then has an opposite idea. What if they make it so the guys who can spend money can't spend money even if they want to? Then the game will be cheap, and furthermore, it will only sell a VIP and nothing else. With such a low payment limit, it will be very difficult to make money. They're already imagining all the angry players wanting to use their wallets but not being able to. Pai Qian shows Mei Yang the game template he bought, which is basically a ready-made game, and you just change some information and theoretically it's yours. And what are they going to launch differently? Absolutely nothing. But Mei Yang is shocked. This damn thing costs $100,000. But Pai Qian says it's a steal. $100,000 is really too cheap for this scumbag since he wanted to spend $200,000. He then points to the screen and says that now they have to add combat effects, some card designs, and other artistic features. And Mei Yang is shocked. Wow, do we have to spend even more? What's the budget for everything that's left? Pai Qian says he'll spend $30,000 on music and sound effects, $10,000 on other expenses, and the remaining $70,000 on design. Mei Yang is confused, all this on design. He then organizes some papers and hands everything to Mei Yang, and says he'll take care of the interface and special effects. And the character cards, he'll let Mei Yang handle them, and hands in a list of character names. But the poor guy is sweating bullets and says, "I've only watched this Three Kingdoms show twice, and I don't even know the characters on the list." Pai Qian says it's okay. He trusts him. All he wants is something original and innovative. Insecure, Mei Yang says it's okay. He'll do his best. Pai Qian says, "You can do it, kid," but deep down he's praying he can't. "I left the hardest part to you, making the game fail." Sometime later, Mei Yang is saying he's lost. He doesn't know where to start. And obviously, Pai Qian says it's okay, relax. The character visuals are up to the artist. He just needs to give a general idea. And it has to be something extravagant and innovative. He can't forget that. Mei Yang asks, "Can I turn Guan Yu into a dragon?" He says he can. "Can I make some random guy into a centaur?" You can. "Can I turn a woman into a dragon too?" You can. Do whatever you want, dude. "Can I turn the character everyone loves into a little dragon loli?" You can too. Mei Yang is happy, and Pai Qian says he's a genius, how amazing everything he does is. He's changing all the characters into women wearing skirts. This is going to be a disaster. It's really an incredibly stupid idea he's following. Since successful games are using a more cartoon style, he decides to use a realistic style to go against the trend. He finds someone on the internet named Huan Guanjin. The guy's designs are extremely simple and dull. And since his focus seems to be cartoon style, if he asks for realistic, it will surely turn out like garbage. Plus, it's very cheap, which is even better, as it guarantees the guy is bad. He writes an email and sends it to the guy. Now he's confident, a rookie artist drawing something he's never drawn before, and his lost friend giving the worst ideas possible. Surely all the Three Kingdoms fans will hate it all. Finally, he'll manage to lose the $300,000 and make $300,000 in profit. Sometime later, the two are in a cafeteria, and Pai Qian is looking at the descriptions Mei Yang wrote. It's so bad it would have been better to leave it blank. There's no detail about the design, just about the race and color of the character. It's truly an unacceptable summary. He thanks Mei Yang, saying it's perfect, he could never do something like this, thinking that clearly it has no characteristics of the Three Kingdoms. You can't even tell it's based on them. Then Mei Yang says he has a crazy idea. Pai Qian wants to know what the idea is, and Mei Yang says, "Why don't we turn all the characters into women?" But Pai Qian immediately tells him to stop with that idea. Mei Yang asks why, and Pai Qian responds that there's a danger of people getting angry, but in reality he's afraid of it being successful. He then says that the idea is already great. Leave those centaurs, the dragons, really, this way it's much better. My gang says okay then. Paikien gets up and says he'll send the contents to the artist later, while thinking that it's easy to fool this guy. In the city of Mo, at the University of Finance and Economics, we see three guys in the dorm room talking. They're asking the guy in jail what kind of job he got and who the client is. The long-haired guy tells them to leave because he has to go to a meeting and they'll have to start working soon. He then enters a sort of virtual reality to talk to Paikien. His name is Huang Guangjin, and he asked our protagonist how many characters he wants and what the requirements are. Paikien says he doesn't want a cartoon style and needs 54 drawings of each character, so 200 in total. Huang Guangjin is a bit surprised because he only draws cartoons, and then he says he wants 2,000 per set. It may seem like a lot, but he's a capable rookie. But Paikien doesn't like that price. It's too cheap and won't make a dent in his money. So if he says no, that price isn't suitable. Huang Guangjin says that's the minimum he'll accept, but Paikien starts explaining that he needs innovative designs so the difficulty will be great. Also, the one who planned it doesn't have much knowledge of art, so that's why the descriptions are vague. In this case, he'll pay 3,000 per set since that's what's appropriate. Huang Guangjin is shocked and says it's the legendary reverse negotiation when someone argues because they want to pay more. So Paikien sends the list of characters and tells him to take a look. But Huang Guangjin is shocked your list has no details. It makes no sense at all. Besides, it has no references. He'll have to create everything from scratch. Paikien says it's okay. He trusts 100% in his artistic talent. He can draw whatever he wants. He won't ask again. If he wants, he can record this conversation and show it to the judge. Huang Guangjin says okay, he believes it, and then they sign the digital contract. With that, Paikien thinks it's done. Now it's just buying the music and sound effects, renting the hosting service, and the last 10,000 will be spent. Obviously, he didn't leave any money for marketing since the goal isn't to be successful. In his room, Huang Guangjin gathers everyone and talks about the job. Seeing how much they're going to be paid, the guys are motivated. It's a very good price. Is he paying you all that? Really, I draw cartoon style as much as he wants. But Huang Guangjin warns that it's not actually a cartoon style. He wants everything realistic. The guys are shocked, but why did he ask for that if all of his portfolio is cartoon style? Huang Guangjin says he hates drawing cartoons and his portfolio is like that because all mobile games have been asking for that type of design. He had no choice, so he accepted the jobs. But finally, he doesn't need to draw that anymore. He can show his true value. Sometime later, looking at the computer, he chose the epic oil painting style, with strong strokes and lots of shading. His friends ask if that will really meet the client's needs. Huang Guangjin says he chose this style to highlight the grandeur of the creatures. It's the perfect style for when the art differs from humans, but normally the style of the Three Kingdoms doesn't fit with this. But since the guy changed everything, this case fits well. But his friends warn that they won't be able to help him in this case since they don't understand this style. Huang Guangjin says it's okay. They'll do the initial part and they'll finish later. They're talking about how they need to make this work. The client even pays well, surely has other contacts. They just can't make the poor client lose money. So the motivated Huang Guangjin tells everyone that they'll do their best, and everyone's excited. 3 weeks later, he's finished. Dude, the poor guy turned into a skeleton, but everything's ready. Everyone worked really hard, and they can eat. But they don't have the energy to get off the floor. The room is full of Coke and Red Bull cans, and he says they'll go out for lunch tomorrow. He sits at the PC and says he finished the 200 drawings. When Paikien received the file, he was impressed that the guy really sent everything on time, and he's curious to see how it turned out. He still has the remaining money, so he decides to spend it on a few more items. But first, he's going to take a look at the design just to see how bad it turned out. Upon opening, the first thing that comes up is the divine fighter Guan Yu. The art is insane and extremely good, and Paikien gets mad, saying this costs much more than what I'm paying. Was this guy tricking me? His portfolio had nothing about this type of drawing. So an emergency meeting is necessary. Unfortunately, the game needs to be launched in 2 days or the system won't make the payment. One of them says it's okay, even though the drawings are well done. Things may not go so well since the characteristics are very different. Also, they only use the old game model, and the gameplay is quite boring since they didn't buy any more resources. It's as dull as possible. But one Atai says that the art doesn't matter. If no one clicks, they won't even see it. They need to release this game with the most ridiculous name possible. And it can't contain 3 kingdoms in the name at all, or it might end up getting some clicks. Mei appears behind him and asks what he was looking at. When he sees the art, he's impressed with how good it turned out. Paikian says it's all thanks to his talent, and Mayang responds, "Wow, I really didn't know I had this talent." Paikian then asks him to test the game just to see if there are any bugs, and Mayang then asks what the name of the game will be. Our protagonist says it will be Ghost General, a card game. Back in Guanjun's dorm, they're celebrating the end of the project and went out for a barbecue to relax. One of the guys asks when the game will be released and what the name is. Somewhat embarrassed, Guanjun says it's Ghost General, but he doesn't know when it will be released. We'll take a look at the platform and is shocked because the game has already been launched. The friend is also confused, asking, "But didn't you send the illustrations this morning? It's already launched now." They take a look and the game description is, "This is a normal card game." They think it's very dull. However, they recognize that Solitary Desert Highway was also made by this company. Not to mention, the game is being sold for $7, which doesn't make any sense. So they buy it, saying they at least need to see their work in the game. The guy with glasses finishes the tutorial and goes to buy 10 cards to see what he gets. However, he immediately receives 2 legendaries at once and feels lucky, but the other says he also got 2 oranges, and the other got 3. Guanjun wonders if it's because of the testing phase and the chance of getting the rare card is increasing. Then one of the friends shows that the game's store only sells a very cheap VIP ticket. They decide to take a look at the other systems. Is there anything premium? The other games have up to level 8 for you to evolve. Guanjun sees that there's nothing and says he'll ask the boss, and he thinks it's not in the final version yet. He then asks about all this and if these things will be added. But Paikian warns, this is the final version. In the mental meeting, Guanjun asks if there will be more items in the store, and Paikian says they won't release anything else. Guanjun is shocked and asks why, and our protagonist explains that they want to focus on the fixed price, and they don't feel like putting a bunch of purchases in the game. Obviously, it's because he doesn't want people to have any chance of making money. Guanjun asks if he'll do marketing, since downloads are low, but Paikian says there won't be any marketing, and Guanjun wants to know why. Our guy explains that they've already spent all the money, and nothing is left of the $300,000 budget they had. Guanjun lowers his head, and the friends ask what happened. Guanjun then says that Ghost General needs their help. He thought that Chief Paikian was super rich, and that's why he didn't try to lower the price and even mention a fair value. But now he understands very well. Chief P doesn't want to get his hands dirty for money, and he doesn't want to sell his values. The kid in the black shirt says that without marketing, it's impossible for the game to become popular. And the one in blue says they should help with promotion. The last one says they're not streamers or popular gamers. They can't do that. But Guanjun pounds on the table, saying the boss was very generous and they need to reciprocate. He knows several famous artists and will ask for their help. Sometime later, Mayang is sad, saying their game seems bad and no one is interested. Usually, successful games have millions of downloads, so why does theirs have so few? Paikian puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him not to worry. It's common for a new game like this to go through this situation. Things will get better. However, he's incredibly happy. It's obvious that there are no downloads. There's no marketing, so it's perfect. Mayang says he'll take another look since it's been 3 hours since he last checked. However, Paikian is confident he can look as much as he wants. It can be 3 days, a month. No one will see this game. Just maintain this pace and the $300,000 will land in his account. But Mayang's eyes sparkle, and he says the number of downloads has finally increased and lots of people even left positive reviews. Paikian is shocked and asks what the heck is going on. In the comments, everyone is praising the game. Paikian doesn't understand. He's sure he didn't do any marketing or ask anyone to leave 5-star reviews, so what's happening? Trembling with rage, he falls onto the bed, wondering how this could have happened. Mayang tells him, "I know you work hard, bro, and things are improving, but don't get too excited." Paikian says he understands. "I'll contain my joy here. I'm really excited." He gets up, thinking he can't cry over spilled milk. He needs to figure out where he went wrong. So he observes the comments again and realizes everyone is talking about the art. He decides to research this and finds a topic where several artists seem to be promoting the game. And right there, he sees at Huan Guanjin, he found the culprit. Now he's mad. Why is this guy helping me so much with marketing, with so much free time? He then sends a message to Guanjin asking if he promoted Ghost General. Guanjin says yes. He even got other artist friends to promote it and told everyone how great it was to work with boss Paikian, who pays well and appreciates an artist's work. Because of this, everyone was moved to help. Finally, someone like that in the game industry. Paikian thanks him with hatred, and Guanjin wishes good luck to the boss. He's sure he'll make even better games in the future. A week later, it's time for the system to tally everything up. Paikian is on the balcony looking at the screen. The game has already made $500,000, and considering everything he spent, the investments, system calculations, he's made $2,000 and missed the chance to earn $300,000. His mental state is collapsing. The only thing he has in his favor is that the system's value will increase. The next settlement date will be in 3 months, and the value will already be over $6 million. He'll probably have to hire an expensive workspace, costing around $400,000 a month, and another 30 employees, costing around $200,000 a month, plus a bunch of good equipment to spend another $1 million. It will be laborious, but maybe he can stay afloat. Mayang then touches his shoulder and says they should eat something good with all this success, and Pai Qian agrees, remembering that he promised to take him to eat something nice if everything went well. On the stairs, Mayang asks what's wrong. He seems worried, and Pai Qian says it's nothing serious, not to worry, it's just that he's very busy with all of this. Mayang says now that he's the boss of a successful game, he should hire an assistant to help, and our protagonist ponders this. Mayang explains that's how every story he sees goes. The boss always has to be bossy, drive luxury cars, flirt with all the girls, and dump all the company's work onto the assistant. Pai Qian loves the idea. It's perfect to hire an assistant to spend money. He needs to hire a professional who can do everything and costs extremely high. This way, he'll have someone to set up the new office, hire a bunch of people, and spend a lot more money. So he goes to another company saying he's looking for an assistant, and the guy asks what the requirements are. Pai Qian says he wants the best and most expensive, and the guy gives him a list saying they're all the best in hand-on. They're disciplined, talented, well-behaved, and conduct themselves properly. He sees a girl named Yahello who worked for a foreign company's vice president. However, it doesn't say there that she left the company. What happened? The guy says it seems he doesn't follow the news much. Pai Qian is confused and asks what he's talking about. The attendant then tells him that the vice president of the company she worked for tried to have some fun with her, but got slapped so hard his dentures flew out. It became news, and the vice president lost his job and she resigned. Pai Qian says he wants her then, but he has one request. She can give suggestions when he asks, but in any other situation, she must remain quiet and not question. The guy says he can trust her professionalism. 3 days later, on Monday, a luxurious car arrives and a beautiful woman steps out. Yahello, with a salary of $30,000. She opens the door for Pai Qian, who doesn't quite fit with all this luxury. They go to the part of town with the most expensive commercial offices. The attendant tells him that if he wants a whole floor for his company, he can have the 17th floor. In the office, Pai Qian says the view isn't bad, and the guy tells him that if the company is recent, the government can provide assistance to them. Additionally, they can rent with just 1 month's deposit, so it's very easy. Pai Qian asks how much it costs, and the guy says it's 4 yuan per square meter. Pai Qian says it's too cheap. Obviously, the attendant is surprised, but Pai Qian is thinking that with all the expenses combined, it would be about 450,000. The attendant is baffled. This kid seems unassuming, but apparently, he's really rich. Pai Qian sighs, thinking it's 1 yuan per meter, cheaper than he estimated. Unfortunately, he'll save 90,000 a month. The guy asks if he's satisfied, and Pai Qian says that since it's the best they have, he'll have to accept it, unfortunately. He somehow needs to start losing money since Ghost General is becoming too successful. The guy then says he'll prepare the contract immediately. Later, Pai Qian talks to Yahello and tells her that a good working environment greatly improves employee performance and also enhances the company's image. She takes notes. He says the office desk has to be expensive and elegant, the computers have to be the best, the mouse has to be good, the keyboard has to be mechanical, and the monitor has to be the most expensive available. Since it's a gaming company, they need everything of the highest quality. Additionally, they need plants for the employees when they're stressed and someone to water them. It might seem useless, but they also need someone just to water the plants. Also, they need the most expensive treadmills possible since everyone sits for long periods. It's good for them to stretch their legs a bit. He also wants a tea table so they can relax. Yahello says she's noted everything and asks him what an acceptable price would be. He says at least 500,000, but as close as possible to 800. With rent, equipment, and office, he's already close to $1 million. He then goes with Yahello to buy some suits, obviously the fanciest and most expensive ones. Since the system didn't say anything about not being able to buy, he bought several. And Yahello even said she would buy some more casual clothes for him. On the way back home, she handed him a shopping list. The list had several unnecessary items for an office, but it's what he asked for, and she says she saved as much as possible. Then she takes him to a house she rented for him. Pai Qian is impressed that the system allowed this to happen. Apparently, things that influence the boss's image are really part of the company. Yahello tells him to rest and that the clothes will be delivered to his house. He asks her to please prepare the documents of the candidates he's going to interview. She says it's her responsibility, of course. There's a minimum profit requirement in the system. You can't just throw everything away and go bankrupt. He needs to stay at a loss, but still within a certain value. This means he has to hire someone not too good, but also not hire a delinquent. Paikian remembers another useless guy he knew from college, a guy who just played games all day. Of course, someone who plays games all day doesn't necessarily know how to make a game. So he goes to the guy and throws the money, asking if he's willing to create a game. If this guy works with them, there's a dual monitor and the best computer available, and he can play games all day. The guy asks what he'll do with the company, and Paikian says he'll be the game tester, so he just has to play literally. If he wants, he can give suggestions on designs and games. The guy says he'll think about it. Maybe he'll accept. Paikian then touches his shoulder and says he's waiting for them at the company. He'll call him on the phone, and now he's going to get his hair cut with that money. The chubby guy takes the money and cries, saying someone finally recognized his worth. Then, a guy named Huang Zibo with yellow hair is in front of the company, wondering if this is where the two legendary games, Desert Lonely Highway and Ghost General, were created. He enters somewhat embarrassed, lowers his head, and goes to the elevator. When the door opens, the company's planning chief, Han Yang, is there. The guy has a salary of 7,000. Huang Zibo is surprised and greets the guy, who points at him and says the company here has very high demand, so he won't be hired. The kid wonders, wow, I didn't expect even he would come for an interview. Was it for the legendary Tengda? He goes to the 17th floor thinking, if even Liu was so sad, he probably wasn't accepted. And if an experienced guy like him wasn't, imagine me. He arrives at the reception and is impressed. The receptionists are famous twins. They then say they'll take him to the interview room, and in the company there are already a lot of things installed and people playing. She knocks on the door, calling for Boss P, who tells them to come in. Our protagonist tells him to sit down, and he goes somewhat embarrassed and greets him. Noticing the silver cup, he can see the level is different there. Paikian asks where he worked, and the guy says he worked at Changyang. He sees Paikian laughing and hesitates. Is he laughing at me? I really shouldn't have come here. I'm just a beginner in this industry. Peg tells him he's excellent and says he meets all the requirements, asking when he can start working. The guy is confused and says the day after tomorrow. So Paikian tells him to bring his resignation letter. He'll already sign the contract, but he asks how much he wants to be paid. Somewhat embarrassed, Huang says 2,100 is enough for him, and he hopes the boss doesn't think that's too much. Paikian puts his hand on his face, leaving him anxious. I knew I had overdone it. But Paikian starts listing all the expenses I'll have to work in the city center. With that, he says the company will pay at least 3,500. Huang doesn't know what to say, and our protagonist says 4,000. It was the famous reverse negotiation again. Embarrassed, he says that's great, and our guy says it's decided and welcomes him to the company. The poor guy leaves trembling. Paikian keeps refusing every experienced guy who could make the company succeed and hires all the inexperienced young people with the excuse that they have a visionary eye. A week later, Mei Yang is going to visit him. When he enters the room, he asks how the hiring is going. Our protagonist hands him the list. Mei Yang obviously gets a shock, saying the people seem very young and inexperienced, and asks why he hasn't hired any chief designers. Did nobody apply for that position by any chance? Paikian tells Mei Yang that a lot of people applied, but he rejected all of them. Mei Yang asks why, and our protagonist explains that it's because those guys are too outdated and don't have a passion for the game. So he's going to be a head designer and will only ask for help from that blonde guy he hired. Seeing the resume, Mei Yang says the guy doesn't seem very experienced. Is Paikian sure about this? Paikian says yes, especially because he's looking for someone who can't see how stupid his ideas are. Also, they have a gamer who plays all day. With such an infallible duo, the company can't go wrong. Mei Yang asks when they'll actually start working, and Paikian says it will be tomorrow. He then makes an announcement to everyone in the company that tomorrow things really begin. People seem eager to finally start working, even if it's a 9 to 9-6. That means working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He doesn't care and will give his best. Paikian says to celebrate the start of work tomorrow, everyone should shut down their computers and go home now. Huang was ready to work and gets surprised. What's wrong with this boss? Our protagonist says it's Friday, today is a day for fun, so they're going to rest. Let's go home, everyone. He looks at the clock and it's only 3 p.m. What are they going to do now outside of work? Back home, our protagonist goes once again to his mental meeting to think about what kind of game would be perfect to incur losses this time. One of them says the goal is to choose the wrong direction and ensure that the employees don't notice. Since the mobile industry is doing very well, they have to avoid that. How about trying to create a computer game to compete with one of the biggest of all? One of them suggests making that style of game a style they don't have. But they all agree that the entire company can't do it. They hired a bunch of amateur people, and that style would be impossible. So on the 12th day, he calls everyone for a meeting. As no one works during a meeting, they're all focused. He then reveals that they're going to make a first-person shooter game for computers, something none of them has ever done. Huang's about to say something, but he already tells him to wait and announces that there won't be a mobile version. Their intention is to dominate the industry, so they don't even want to bother with an insignificant game. At Tenga, they're either going to success or fail. There's no middle ground. People applaud. Truly, the boss is visionary. He's on another level. He then points to Huang and Baxu and says the two are responsible for everything this time. Baxu will develop the entire design concept and Huang will handle all the execution. Obviously, they don't feel prepared. Huang thinks he needed about 6 more years of experience to do something like this. But Patakian warns for this game he has 3 requirements. It needs to have an interesting story. It needs to make it as easy as possible for new players. And lastly, he wants incredible weapons that can be bought for 888 yuan. They can decide the cost of the trial period, and that's it. Any questions? Huang wants to say something, but our guy interrupts and says the meeting is over, and everyone applauds. Baxu starts drawing and poor Huang starts working on the project. Meanwhile, Mei Yang will be responsible for helping others and learning as much as possible. If there's any problem, especially related to money, just inform him. He's confident about the first-person shooter game. Nobody cares about the story mode. Usually people just want to exchange bullets, so they're going to do a lot of things that nobody will even play. That's the kind of useless work. Not to mention that experienced players really like aiming, so if he makes the aiming part too easy, they'll hate it. Also, the payment of 888 yuan per weapon, it becomes inaccessible. He's trying to take everything good from a game called Counter-Strike and do the opposite. With almost no one on the team knowing how to make an FPS game, this is doomed to fail. In the next scene, Huang says, "I'll work overtime even if he cuts my salary. I don't care." Baxu hands him some stuff, and they pause to chat. It seems they're unsure about creating a story mode. They won't be able to compete with the other giant companies. They'll have to focus on reducing costs as much as possible in creating the characters. Since the game is in first person, they can easily reduce the cost there. If they follow the zombie theme, it'll be very simple. They only need zombies and mercenaries. Then they just need to take the base model and paint it in various colors to have various zombies. Huang says it's a good idea, but it'll be difficult to create an original story with just zombies and mercenaries. They need something more. Bao Xu says he has an idea. He just needs a girl, and he'll make her mute, and it'll be perfect. Huang asks why she needs to be mute, and Baxu explains it's to save money since they won't need to hire anyone to do the voice. Indeed, the guy has an IQ of 1,000. They'll convey her emotions solely through expressions. She'll be like a light in the darkness. They continue discussing various ideas, and time passes. It's now November 14th, a Wednesday. Our guy is at college, but he wishes he were at the company with his employees. He's even playing the Dan Ghost General when he receives a message saying they finished the drafts and he should take a look. The text is too long, so he decides to see if they've done the 3 things he wanted. There will be a story mode, it'll be easy to aim, and there will be epic, expensive weapons. It's perfect. Obviously, he should have read the project a bit more. It's already November 18th with 67 days left until the cycle closes. Our guy sees that the money in the system is only increasing, while there's still nothing in his personal account. Why is it so hard to lose money? At that moment, Mei Yang enters and informs him that everyone in the company is working secretly. Our guy is shocked. Why are they doing this? He asks, are they working or playing? Mei Yang says they're playing, and with that, Pai Qian relaxes. He sits down and asks, are you sure they were playing? Mei Yang says yes. That's why he came to warn him, because it's a waste of the company's resources for these guys to be playing. Pai Qian says there's no need. It's better for them to be playing than working, right? They're a gaming company, so they were probably seeking inspiration from other games. His friend asks if he should leave them alone, and the protagonist agrees, and says that in overtime they'll pay 1.5 times more, and on weekends they'll pay double. He hands a sheet to Mei Yang and tells him to note every extra second they spend in this company. When he leaves, he sits, thinking he's a genius. They'll finally manage to spend more money. The next day, hesitantly, Huang goes there and knocks on the door. Our protagonist tells him to come in, and he comes in with a sheet, somewhat unsure, saying it's the resources they need to buy. Huang is thinking. He did his best to find good quality resources at a reasonable price. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Seeing the list, our show-off gets angry. How did he manage to save so much? 670,000 to make the entire game. He returns it and says he wants him to redo it with double the budget. He needs to spend money. Huang is puzzled but says okay, and then asks the name of the game. He says Bao Xu wants to name it Ocean Fortress, but he finds it strange and wants the boss to decide the name. Paikin recognizes the name as a failed movie from his last life, and with that, Ocean Fortress is a perfect name. Let's use that. Huang is obviously working hard, chatting with everyone in the company and increasing the budget since the boss asked. He sits at the desk and receives a message saying his salary has been cut, but it's much more than he expected. Could it be a mistake? He sees Shin Haley passing by and asks to talk to her. He shows her, saying that he received the wrong salary. He earned more than he should have. But Shin Haley tells him that it's correct, it's the payment for overtime. He is taken aback and she says it's normal for the company. He thought he would never receive the legendary overtime pay. Everyone at the company cries. They found it strange that Boss Pay didn't say anything when they worked more, but now everything is clear. He knew about the overtime from the beginning and simply let them do what they wanted, but he paid much more. Everyone is moved and motivated. While our boy is on the couch disbelieving why is it so hard to spend the money from this cursed system, in an emergency meeting they need to spend impulsively, but all the clones are exhausted. They have already spent everything possible at the company and don't even have anywhere else to put money. It's all the fault of that damn General Coast who never stops making a profit. One of the clones has an idea. What if they organize an employee trip? However, the system won't accept it if it's just that. So he decides to plan a trip to places where there are companies with FPS games. That way he can spend a lot on hotels, travel, flights, and everything else, and still use the excuse that he's taking the employees to learn. So he calls Yahello and explains the whole plan to her. She takes notes, and some time later, the group is already discussing it while playing. Indeed, they are going to travel just to learn. How crazy. They just find it peculiar that nobody has ever treated them so well before. It's bizarre. Everyone is just imagining where they are going, and Huang tells them to focus on work. When Pai Qian receives the budget, he is shocked. It's only 150,000. What kind of crap is this? Yahello apologizes, saying she did her best to lower the prices as much as possible. Apparently, spending too much on a high-standard administrator was not a good idea. He asks if they can travel executive instead of economy. However, the system warns that it's not possible. Yahello says she contacted the companies to schedule everything. The company they are going to visit is Sunstrike Studios. When its owner learns about the trip, he is confused. What kind of company plans a company exchange? The receptionist says it's the company behind the General Coast game. Jiamu Yan, the owner of Sunstrike, knows the game, and since it's successful, he thinks it'll be good to meet the owner. So he accepts the exchange and says he'll receive them personally. The receptionist confirms and then hands him a list of newbies' dismissals. He takes a look and tells her to fire everyone except Lin Wan and leaves without saying anything else. The receptionist wonders why this person wasn't fired again. When he sits in his chair, he thinks about it. The reason he didn't fire this Lin Wan is that she is the granddaughter of a boss of a giant company. The guy asked him to let her work there and show her how bad the companies are until she resigns and gives up. But even seeing how bad the lives of game creators are, she doesn't give up, so he can't fire her. Sometime later, they are already at the hotel, and Mei Yan is complaining that he has to keep calling the protagonist boss. He wants to call them friend. But our boy says that can't happen. No one can know they know each other, since he's the special spy. The next morning, they are all heading to the company, and his employee is impressed. A company like that with its own building must be very good and pay very well. The company guy then comes to receive him, and when he sees that Pai Qian is wearing a custom suit, he realizes the boy is rich. They show the recording room, the design room, some cosplays they have, leisure areas, and everything else. However, Huang, seeing that the only thing in their leisure room is a TV, thinks it doesn't even make sense to call it a leisure room. Theirs is much better. Their rest area has only one sofa for such a large company. It's impossible to fit everyone. The food area has about 4-5 snacks, and there's even a warning not to take too much. Compared to their company, it's really bad. Zhu Yan, who wants to know why the Tengda employees don't seem impressed with his company. He was expecting to hear a lot of praise, but it's total silence. Mubian remembers that the protagonist asked him to ask questions and then says, "Wow, today is Saturday. Why are so many employees working overtime?" The two from the company look at each other, thinking that in this company, it's not overtime to work on Saturday, they work every day of the week. Huang explains that they're working because overtime is normal. Mei Yang says he understands it's really good to be able to earn extra money. There are so many people doing overtime that you guys must spend a lot paying for it. The guys from Sunstrike freeze. It's as if they pay anything. Pai Qian holds Mei Yang back and tells him to stop asking those things to the guys. Wang then apologizes for him, saying he doesn't understand much about the industry yet. The guy says it's okay and that he will take them to a meeting to share experiences. And they walk through the corridors where several employees are working. While some comment that the workspace there is very cramped. Huang says it looks like a normal space. Actually, the problem is that at Tengda it's too big. Zhu Yang heard this and didn't understand because his company gives a good space compared to the standard. Huang then gives a presentation on why the General Ghost game was successful. The first reason was using an innovative and bold artistic style. The second was respecting consumers and the low cost of the game. This made everyone feel good playing without needing to spend much. And the third thing is that he didn't spend anything on marketing and only used social media. Our Paikian thinks he explained it well, but wasn't what he wanted. Zhou Yan is looking at the protagonist thinking that the guy is crazy not to have spent anything on marketing and even hired a rookie to be an artist. He really is a young man of great attitude and courage. He then steps forward and announces that they are preparing a shooting game called Bullet Hole, and the goal is to surpass Counter-Strike. The most important thing in the game will be the difficulty. In shooting games, usually the enthusiasts are veterans, so they will make something challenging. They are working hard on the visuals and even have military personnel on the project. They will make the game free, but the equipment will cost a lot. Huang gets scared. It sounds like the game they are making, but with everything that people like. If they launch at the same time, it will end the Fortaleza do Oceano. But when he looks to the side, the protagonist is smiling. And Huang begins to think that he came there just to check out the guy's approach. And now he's sure the Fortaleza do Oceano will be a success. Sometime later, Paikian thanks them for everything, and Zhu Yan says it was a pleasure to have him there at the company. As he's leaving, a girl finally appears in this story to talk to him. She is Lin Wang, the granddaughter of the guy who owns a giant company. She says she wants to ask him a few things. She then asks if making money is the main goal when creating a game. Paikian replies that the main goal is to bring joy, because in fact his main goal is to lose money. She smiles happily and asks if his company doesn't have a dismissal system. He says of course not. Every employee in the company is like family. They have to grow and learn together. He would never abandon anyone, because how is he going to spend money if he keeps firing others? She asks if the employees in his company work overtime. He says he tries to send them home, but it's been difficult lately. The most he can do is pay more for overtime. She asks if he's fulfilling a kind of childhood dream. He says no, his goal is to make money, but she tells him to stop lying. If he really wanted to make money, he would have set a much higher price for General Ghost. She then thanks him for answering the questions and goes away happy and radiant. Paikian wonders who she was. In the next scene, she's already talking to Zhu Yan, saying she wants to quit. He's very happy, finally, and managed to make her see the darkness of the game development world. And he asks her, "Are you going to give up the game industry?" She says no, he doesn't understand why she's quitting, and asks if she encountered any problems. She says she just feels like she won't be able to achieve any of her dreams there and she wanted to try another place. Where could it be, right? Back at the good company, our protagonist asks Huang if he wants to postpone the project, to which he replies that it won't be necessary. Paikian says he wants to see the game, already afraid it might be good. Huang then shows him in story mode, players will fight from a lower floor to the top and has a total duration of 6 hours. They will also release a weapon that will cost 888 as he requested. Our protagonist starts to worry, who asked this guy to make a decent game. He remembers that he actually doubled the budget. He probably has some blame in this. But he knows that competing with others with just this won't be enough, and this expensive weapon won't turn out well either. Huang asks if he wants to see the rest of the game, but Paikian says no. Then he takes a look at the official review, and then leaves confidently, since they will launch together with the Bullet Hole. With such competition, for sure there won't be a way for them to win. The defeat will be bitter, or sweet in this case, right? Looking at the system, he says he's finally starting to go into the red. It's been a lot of work to spend so much, but he's managing. He just needs to make an effort to spend the last 100,000 he has. He then calls Yahello and tells her to organize an event tomorrow to celebrate the completion of the game. They will eat at a great restaurant, then everyone will go to karaoke and to a shopping mall. They should reserve all the rooms. Yahello says it's a Friday, but our guy says it would be unfair to use one of their days off for this. She says she understands and then informs him that the girl from the other company came here for an interview. He's thinking that she doesn't need money. That's impossible. And Yahello says she noticed that she is from a rich family. But she seemed kind of absent-minded and lost and probably not very good at work. Our guy thinks accustomed to spending money and still not very good. That's perfect. He doesn't even interview her and says he can hire her. He'll pay her 4,000 a month and let her do whatever she wants today. Tomorrow they will pass on some activities. Yahello enters the room and congratulates her for being hired. Just sign this here, and you'll get 4,000 a month. She is happy and wants to know where she can start working. Yahello warns her that her job is to go to karaoke in the mall tomorrow. The game has already been launched and Baksu is slumped in the chair. Hwang comments that it seems the boss hasn't released anything yet. Baksu says the boss asked not to release anything, they trust that he must have some bigger plan. Hwang sits down saying that they really don't need to be insecure, the boss knows what he's doing. They have nothing to do, so they decide to call a group to test the game. They don't have anyone in the company who likes FPS, and a friend of theirs says they can call a Counter-Strike group. But Hwang says that's not very right to keep using others as guinea pigs without them knowing. But then Lin Wan shows up saying she knows several people and asks if they want her to contact them. Hwang is startled and asks where she knows them from, and she says that when they were testing bullet holes, she met all the players since she was in touch, and that's why she has their numbers. He then says perfect, and in an apartment, there's a professional player and streamer receiving a message from Lin Wan asking him to test a game. The guy thinks it's bullet hole, but she says it's another game. He then says she's bold to leave the company when the game is launching, especially since when the game is launched, the team gets a lot of bonuses. She says the bonus means nothing to her and explains that the company she's working for now is much better, so stop talking nonsense and test it already. He asks if the company will pay at least 500 for the test. She says no, but he'll get a Desert Eagle in the game. He says her new company is stingy then. How can you ask to test a game but won't pay anything? She says he can trust that the company isn't stingy. They will even give him a permanent epic weapon. He gets angry because why would he want an epic weapon from a game he doesn't even know will be successful? She says the weapon will cost 888 and he's shocked. What kind of expensive game is this? It's easier to commit armed robbery than to ask for $800 for a skin. But with that, he decides to give it a try because of their friendship. He says the name sounds like garbage, but the graphics aren't that bad. Strange that there's only one weapon in the entire store. He thinks it's not worth playing but sees that there's a story mode and decides to give it a try. And then he finds himself waking up in the middle of a bunch of creatures. He gets up, falls, and even receives a tutorial on how to walk. He opens the door hoping a boss won't appear right away, but it's obvious a zombie is coming. At this point, he takes the Texan household tool from the creature's pocket and sends it to oblivion. But he gets bitten and infected, so he's going to die. At that moment, a girl suddenly stops in front of him, pulls her blood, and throws it on him. With that, he's cured. He tries to communicate with her, but realizes she changes and is impressed. It really is a very original story. The most interesting part is that it's easy to hit the bullets and easy to control. Using a big gun to blow heads off is very satisfying. He keeps playing, facing the boss using bazookas and atomic explosions. He wakes up in a helicopter and finishes the game. And then he starts sending messages to his friends saying the game is really good. Our hero is confident that this game has finally failed. When he enters the company, there's no one at the reception. When he looks, Hwang is standing there staring at her. He realizes no one is looking at him and thinks apparently such a huge failure shook everyone. As much as his goal is to lose money, he knows everyone has worked hard and it's not easy to deal with failure either. So he decides to give some words of comfort. When Lin Wan sees him arrive, she informs everyone and they start celebrating. Our guy is confused and Hwang comes forward and says, "Boss, I learned a lot working for you. I didn't understand why you didn't want to promote the game, but now I understand. A really good game only needs good feedback from the players and everything will work out naturally." Peikian is shattered. "You're not telling me the game became popular, are you?" Hwang throws his arm up and says you can keep updating the platform. Popularity, number of active players, or even profit, we destroyed bullet hole. They bring out a giant champagne bottle. Everyone is happy and cheerful, except our poor guy. Seeing him going to the room calmly, they think everything went according to his calculations. This success wasn't even a surprise, that's confidence. Our guy falls on the other side of the door wondering what he did wrong again. How is it possible? It makes no sense. How can he not fail? He didn't let Wang Jing help with this project to avoid anyone promoting him, so where did it go wrong? The comments are a mess, so there's no way to know why it became popular. But he thinks, I'm the boss, I'm going to tell Wang to analyze this. And he sends a message for him to analyze the success, both in design and marketing, and send it to him. In the clone discussion, they say they made a serious mistake by having a good story mode with an easy-to-play game, which attracted many casual players. Not to mention that the only one that sells for 888 made those who like to spend money enter just to show off. Looking at the profits from the system, he should have made at least 500,000 and got 600,000. In the end, after all the calculations, he earned 6,000 working for 3 months. The poor guy is earning less than any employee. And now with another successful game, it's going to be even harder. But there are still 2 days left for the system to finish the calculations, and he just needs to spend everything possible in that time. He has already given a raise to everyone, or at least everything the system allowed him to increase. In addition to giving an extra 1,000 yuan to everyone who participated in the project as a bonus in the case of the entire company. He tells Yahello to create a new clause that allows everyone to spend up to 3,500 from the company as long as it's for work-related items. Huang is happily working when once again he receives the notification the guy is already earning 15,000 a month, and everyone in the office is impressed with how much they're receiving. Yahello continues distributing the 1,000 bonus and also informs that the company will help pay up to 3,500 for anything they need for work. Baksu notices immediately you can even buy game-related items with the extra help from the company. People are starting to get scared. The boss is too good. Yahello says there's no need for them to be shy, and today they can even leave work early because the boss will take everyone for a celebration. Not ironically, he informs them that they're there to celebrate, but they still have to stick to work hours. He tells everyone to use the bonus he gave them plus the 3,500 it's good for everyone to spend. Everyone goes happily to spend money. He sees everyone entering the stores, talking about what they're going to buy, and he becomes confident. Finally, he's going to lose a little. People are thinking of buying clothes, Nintendo Switch, the girls are buying expensive lipstick and makeup, Baksu went to buy a mechanical keyboard, and everyone is spending. On the other hand, the protagonist is observing everyone, and Lin Wan notices that. Our Pai Qian is worried that people won't spend money, so he has to keep an eye on it. One of his employees was looking at his cell phone when he saw on the camera our protagonist right behind saying, if you like it, just buy it. However, the guy says it's better not to. His cell phone will last at least another year, and $39.99 is too expensive too. Pai Qian says to just use the company's special credit, and the guy is disbelieving, but how is that possible? It's not related to work, so it doesn't make sense to use the company's credit. Our hero says he's thinking about the possibility of developing new mobile games in the future, and if they're going to make a new version of General Ghost, how will he test the game? The guy starts to believe but is still a bit confused, and Pai Qian keeps insisting until he accepts. He keeps going to everyone's face, telling them to buy as much as possible. Everyone who hesitates, he finds a way to convince, and the person becomes happy. Meanwhile, Lin Wan realizes he's buying things for everyone but himself. He sees her on his back when he goes to tell her to buy something. She says she already has everything in the store. That's the problem with having a rich employee. But finally, he enters a store to buy something for himself. The system only allows him to spend 70,000, and that's what he spends. He bought a 42,000 Rolex, a 20,000 handbag, a 7,000 pen, and a Louis Vuitton belt. Lin Wan says she never expected the boss to be so economical. Really a controlled boy, he didn't even spend 100,000. Wang and Lin observe that everything he bought is just to improve his image as a boss. He really is an incredible boss. But Pai Qian is devastated. He's already spent everything the system allows, but it's still not enough. So he asks Yahello what he should buy. The girls are thinking, but they can't come to a consensus. Until Lin Wan says he should buy glasses that will help his life. He then asks Yahello to take him to the most expensive store, and the scoundrel manages to spend another 16,000. Finally, he managed to put the company 20,000 in the negative. It's a small step for man, but a big step towards victory against the system. When the system reaches the conversion phase, he receives 21,000. The rascal managed it, and the system's next mission is to have a physical store either in a bustling city or near a university. Our guy decides to take initiative before things start going wrong, or in this case, start going right. He needs to deal with the most dangerous ones in this company. So he gives a prize to Wine, who celebrates. He's the company's best employee, and right after, he takes away his position and says he won't work with the game anymore. He hands him a $1 million check and says he'll be in charge of some new project for the company, and he can think about what that project is on his own. Obviously, he refuses, but our guy insists as usual. He has nothing better to do and accepts. Then he tells Baksu to take a month off. He can travel wherever he wants and relax. However, obviously, Baksu doesn't want to. He'll stay in a lay-in house playing, and it's much better the company. But Pai Qian already knew he would refuse, so he planned a trip route for him that also involves learning about game design. That way, poor guy can't refuse. He then calls Mei Yang into his office and says he'll let him be in charge of creating the physical store he wants. A huge place. It will be a mix of a lay-in house with competitive games with a computer parts store. It will be a revolutionary place in a huge building, and he'll trust Mei Yang with all of it, which crying emotional and says he can do it. Our protagonist thinks all the pieces are on the table. After removing Huang from his position, he left Lumen Wang in charge of the game direction, who doesn't understand anything about it. Furthermore, with Mei Yang leading the physical unit, the best he can achieve is leave a like on the video to help Mamoru to produce more juicy content for his brothers. Hit that cheeky little bell, and I'm out. Remember the last chapter ended with him initiating the project to set up the physical location. Before things derail, he's already pulled the best employees from the company and put Mayong in charge of everything. Mayong assured him not to worry because he could handle it. However, he's left out in the rain trying to contact people clueless about how to start the project. Then he held a company meeting and assigned the most important task to someone who has never worked with it before, Lu Mingliang. This time, the game will be called Game Designer. It's a game where you'll be a character who creates games. People are curious as he explains that in this game, players will be able to decide the payment method, strategies, and everything that happens in a game company. After explaining, he asks if anyone has any doubts. People look at each other, and he feels confident. No one is saying anything, which is exactly what he wanted. It's not a common genre, and no one will have any idea how to do it. Suddenly, one of them raises their hand and asks what the representation of this game will be. Will it be an interactive fiction? Those games where you choose certain options that decide the course of the story. Pikian says no. Actually, everything has to be 3D with the best graphics possible. Obviously, because if it were simple, he wouldn't be able to spend even a little of the company's money. The guy is startled, wanting to use a bunch of 3D characters in a fiction game. Pikian says he's too fixated on this interactive game thing. The game will be a 3D path with several routes. Each door represents a decision, and decisions lead to different destinations. The guy thinks this doesn't make sense. Why spend so much money on 3D just to pick a door? Lin Wan thinks it's an innovative idea, but just moving forward will make the game very boring. Pikian ponders, now that the company can't be completely in the red, the game has to be boring, but not completely boring. He then has an idea. They can add a kind of voiceover to the game to allow people to have more interactions. When they make the right choice, voice A will speak, and when they make the wrong one, it will be voice B, and obviously the voices will try to help and hinder the player, besides trying to confuse or help the person make the ideal choices. Pikian says that with these lines, at least the players won't get so bored. Lin Wan smiles, thinking that Boss P is really very careful. She jots down everything, thinking he really is a genius with game ideas. Pikian says he wants the basic design in 3 days, a complete project in 1 week, all the art deliveries in 2 weeks. Is there any problem? The guy says no and says Boss P can trust him. With that, the meeting ends. Sometime later, on the couch with Ma Yang, he asks how things are going since 3 days have passed. At least he found the place where it's going to be. Ma Yang says he still has no idea. Pikian spits out his coffee, thinking he'd be a millionaire if he could have a bunch of Ma Yangs in the company. But Ma Yang says the current priority is to find someone suitable for this job. Ma Yang is smiling while Pikian thinks he's confident that Ma Yang will fail, but what if he ends up finding someone very competent? Then he asks what kind of person he's looking for. Ma Yang says he found a guy in an online forum who seems to be very talented and is trying to hire him. Pikian finally relaxes as if he's going to find a talented person and manage a multi-million-dollar place in an online forum. And he asks Ma Yang for project details. Ma Yang says since it's going to be an internet cafe and computers are the main part, to have an identity, they need to create their own computers. And this guy he found in a forum for computer experts, so he's definitely going to do a very good job. Pikian nods, saying it's perfect then. He's overjoyed in finding such an expert. Surely each of the computers will be extremely expensive. He puts the cup on the table and says, we really need this type of expert, so go now and offer even more money to him. Pikian approaches and says they need to pay at least 8,000 for such an expert guy. Mayang unenthusiastically mentions that even his salary is only 5,000 still. Pikian says he doesn't need to worry. If he manages this successfully, he'll get a bonus. With that, Mayang excitedly says he'll get back to work and leaves the room. Pikian slumps into his chair, now believing he's dealt with part of the game and tackled Mayang's issue. The only problem is Huang Sibo, whom he gave 1 million to for a project, and he's afraid of how the kid will spend it. February 8th arrives. The guy knocks on Pikian's door and enters to show that the game project is ready. Pikian asks if he's working overtime because he was too fast. The guy says no, it's just that his efficiency is higher working at Tengda, so Pikian tells him to sit down. He then hands over the papers for Pikian to look at. Pikian decides to scrutinize them to see if there's anything that could make this game succeed too much, like what happened with Huang. Pikian starts asking some questions about the project and the ideas. The guy explains, but he heard that the boss didn't even look at Huang's, which means his isn't perfect. However, he notices the boss's attention to detail really focused on helping him and ensuring he can make a great project. Pikian closes his eyes and imagines making some decisions in the game. As he enters the first corridor, he can choose the genre of the game to be created. He can choose if it's 3D, if it's 2D, what the characters will be. He then frowns, realizing it's terribly boring. Even in his imagination, it's not fun at all. Surely he can start working because it's perfect. The guy smiles, and Pekian tells him to use everything with the best quality possible. The guy leaves, promising he'll constantly try his best. Suddenly, the door opens in his face when Huang opens it. Inside a club, a bartender prepares a drink, and a blonde guy calls him, saying the customers want a song. He says he's cleaning the counter and will go sort it out. Then he climbs onto the stage and starts singing for everyone. As he performs, he introduces himself as Zhang Yuan, a 24-year-old guy who works as a bartender and singer. Sometime later, everyone is leaving. The blonde, who is the boss, tells him to close everything before leaving, and he just thanks him. Suddenly, his phone rings. When he looks, he gets excited. It's Mayang talking about the salary and that they want him to come for a visit and everything is paid for. In front of the company, scared. It's the legendary Tangda that created the Ghost General and the Fortress at Sea. Yahello comes to greet him all shiny. He confirms he came for the interview, and she takes him to the room. Pekian says he doesn't need to be so formal and can sit and have some tea. Sitting in the chair, he's confused because someone is important, as Pekian wants a barista as an employee. He just hopes he hasn't been hired to sing while making drinks. The first thing Pekian asks is what he thinks is the best configuration for a computer to run all current games. Zhang Yuan continues hesitantly, but now he realizes the guy wants his talent with computers. He knows this guy is very powerful and smart, so it's better not to try to fool him. And he starts thinking that if he takes a little bit of the salary he's going to receive to put it into the configuration, he might even be able to be friends with such a powerful person. He then starts listing each of the parts from the motherboard and graphics card to the speakers and headset. After explaining everything, he relaxes and tells Pekian it will cost a total of 15,000 each. Actually, it will cost 16,000, but he's willing to take a little bit off his own salary to make the offer more attractive to Pekian. The damn guy hasn't even entered the company and he's already ruining our protagonist's plans. Pekian says the configuration seems good for current games, but what about future ones? He tells him he wants him to increase the configuration by at least 10,000. With the extra 10,000 in mind, Zenan begins to describe new components that could reach that price. With these 25,000, he says, they can create a computer that will be one of the best even 2 years from now. Pekian says that's fine, especially since that's all the system allowed him to spend on each of the computers. Jay actually knows it will cost 26,000, but he's still willing to take 1,000 out of his own pocket to help Pekian. Pekian tells him it's settled, he can build 50 of those. Then he spits in Pekian's face and reveals that he felt bad for accepting 3,000 to do something so simple. That's why he was going to return up to 1,000 for one of the computers. But actually, if he wants to make 50, the story changes. Pekian says he can't feel that way. He deserves the 3,000. Why does he want to return the money? He hands over a napkin, saying for each of the computers he builds, he'll earn an extra 200, and explains that he wants to open an internet cafe in the city of Zhengdu, and if he wants, he can even come work with them. With tears in his eyes, Zhengdu says he definitely wants to work here, already thinking that with such a generous boss, his life will finally start to improve. Pekian then asks him to talk a bit about his previous work. He says he's currently working as a bartender and singer in the same place, and in forums, he's known as a computer master. He feels sad because the boss called him because of computing, but he has nothing related to it on his resume. But Pekian says he's actually amazing for having so many talents. With so much talent, he can work at the internet cafe, making drinks, and even singing, and in this way, he deserves to receive 3 salaries. Before the guy can respond, he calls in Yahello and tells her to bring the contract. She appears with the contract in the same second, and he just hands it to Zhang, saying he'll receive 14,000 a month. The guy has tears in his eyes. He can't even believe he's signing a contract to receive 14,000. He who comes from a simple family will finally achieve success. 2 minutes later, Mayang appears in the room and asks the boss what he thought of Zhang. The guy is really an expert, isn't he? Zhang, embarrassed, says they praise him too much. Pekian pats Mayang on the shoulder, saying he really did a great job finding the talent. Zhang is impressed that Mayang really works as someone who hires for Pekian. Then he shows Pekian that he found a good place to open the internet cafe. It's a huge place with all glass doors. It was an extremely luxurious restaurant, but it went bankrupt. It has an area of 3,000 square meters and costs 300,000 a month. Seems too cheap. What does the boss think? Zhang is startled. Why isn't anyone commenting on why the restaurant went bankrupt? Clearly, there must be some problem with that. He knows the problem with this place is that it has a very large shopping complex a few blocks away, so everyone prefers to go there. It really is such a big place and this price is cheap, but it's not worth it. Feeling isolated in the room, he's not sure if he can express his opinion since he just joined the company. Pekian claps his hands, saying it's an amazing place. They'll choose it. Mayang gives a thumbs up, saying he knew boss Pekian would love it. Zhang decides not to say anything so he doesn't get involved in the boss's decisions. He then says he'll explain the plan and they just have to follow it. Since the internet cafe will need 50 computers, they'll have a price of 10 yuan per hour. In addition, they'll create a bar area for Zhang to be there when he's not busy. And they also need to have a spacious area for Zhang to sing some songs. Since this place used to be a restaurant, they can take advantage of that to put a chef in there to cook some things. The second floor will sell computer parts. It doesn't need to make a profit, just not a loss. And next to the restaurant will be a small cinema. Nothing too big, just a few seats is enough. Pekian tells Mayang that's basically it is impressed with the boss's plans. Pekian says the idea is to have a place that has a bit of everything. However, Zhang says he's not excited about this idea. There are too many conflicting things. 2 entertainment places, 2 places to eat. Seeing both, you can't imagine who will have the courage to pay 10 yuan per hour. Additionally, the start of the menu is extremely expensive wines and cheap potatoes at the back. Who will put up with that? Zhang calls Pekian, thinking of saying something but is promptly interrupted. Pekian explains that since this is Tengda's first physical place, they're not concerned with profits. He gets up all stylish and goes to the window and says, "It's a bold venture to combine so many different elements in the same place. It's normal for people not to accept it at first, but the goal is to change their perception." Zhang is somewhat silent, thinking that if the boss isn't worried about losses, then it's doable. He leaves thinking that since he's going to earn 10,000 a month, he doesn't need to worry. The company continues to operate. While Pekian takes a look around, he feels confident with everything being sorted out on Mayang's side. Since Huang Sibo hasn't come to work for a while, he decides to ask about the progress. Pekian sends a message and Huang responds that he decided to enter the film industry. He immediately gets excited. It's a perfect industry to lose money. He's curious, so he decides to call and ask some questions. The first thing he wants to know is if Huang needs more investments, to which he says he doesn't. He already received more than enough. Pekian asks if he already has a director and where they're going to shoot. Does he want to come here to the company to talk? Outside, Huang says he's already there, and the person he's bringing is with him. He turns to the guide and tells him they're going to meet Boss P. He arrives excitedly, opening the door, and introduces the guy as a director he hired, someone who's been in college for 4 years, and his name is Zhu Xiao Sai. Oh my, this name is difficult. Pekian greets him excitedly. Leaving a movie in the hands of someone still in college is the perfect chance. He then asks them what kind of movie they want to make. Is $1 million really enough? Huang Sibo says that's actually too much. It's just a small movie, he doesn't need that much. Pekian's confidence in losing money drops. And suddenly, he asks if the movie they want to shoot is called Surprise by any chance. The two stare at each other in surprise. What do you mean? That was a movie that was very successful in the future. And Pekian is relieved when they say no. Zhu Xiao Sai then responds that he wants to film Pekian. He is shocked. Huang Si says it's his idea, and Zhu Xiao Si says he wants to film a few days in the protagonist's life. Pekian doesn't know what to say. What are they going to film? The only 2 days he comes to the company and spends an hour the days he stays at home doing nothing. Thinking about how boring his life is, maybe it really is a good chance to lose money. He then raises his hand and asks something, can they spend $1 million the way they're shooting? Because he knows if they're going to film their lives, they won't have to buy anything. This is very dangerous. Zhu Xiao Si says he doesn't need to worry. Actually, they're going to pay him to film the employees. Pekian is shocked by this. And Huang Si says that everything will be covered by the two of them. They won't need the boss's money. Obviously, Pekian is incredulous. Zhu Xiao Sai excitedly says it will be 30 episodes and he will earn 1,000 per episode. Huang Si says he knows it's not much money for the boss, but it's what they can offer. Pekian is curious about this and has a mental meeting to discuss. Some clones say the company's money is going back to him anyway. This will be bad. But one of them says maybe this way they can take it out of the system and put it directly into his personal account. He then decides to ask the system if he can receive this salary. The system says yes, as long as the remuneration is equivalent to the job market. With that, the big heads are all excited. Finally, the system allowed something. With that, he accepts the project and says he will receive the salary to show that he accepts this gratitude. Xiao Sai reaches into his backpack and says now he just needs to sign the contract. It's good for him to give it a read. If he breaks the contract, he'll have to pay 3 times the salary. However, Pekian is about to make a mistake. He says it's just a formality, no need to read it. He then accepts the salary and hands it over, thinking it's a great deal. Once again, he asks if the name isn't Surprise, right? The guys say no, and he continues to feel confident about losing money. They then get up and say they'll prepare the scripts and leave. Pekian is confident. Finally, the system will allow him to put 30,000 straight into his pocket. Last time, he worked for 3 months on the fortress on the sea game to earn 20,000 at the end. In a room, Huang and Xiao Si are discussing the scripts. And obviously, they're very excited, focused, and working as best as they can. After hours of writing, both are exhausted and they have no good ideas. When Huang finally says he knows what to do, he asks Xiao City if he remembers what Pekian kept talking about. He remembers it was the surprise movie. Excitedly, Huang says that's exactly what's missing. That was the boss's hit. Xiao City understands what they mean. They have to film out of nowhere, and there's always a plot twist to make it a surprise. Now, both are excited to start writing. After much planning, the next day, everyone was working, when suddenly a bunch of film crew entered the room. They went to Boss P and said it was a simple filming, nothing special. Pekian asked if there wasn't even a script, and Xiao said no. First, he would just sit on the couch and glance at his Rolex. Then he would look at a game magazine and point to the top photo. Then standing looking out at the city, he would smile as if deep in thought. With that, he says cut. He tells the boss it's all done. He can go back to work, and Pekian thanks him. However, he's confused. Did they really film anything? It doesn't make any sense. The guys are gone, and he's excited. Really, the guy is useless, and he's definitely going to lose money. The only problem is that they save everything, so it will be difficult. But he starts thinking, wait, why did they ask me to sit and look at my Rolex on the sofa? And why do they want me to stand it outside as if thinking deeply about something? He has a feeling something bad is going to happen, so he goes to the door and calls Xiao C, asking if there's a problem. Pekian wants to know if he can take a quick look at the video script. Xiao C, sweating, says yes. With that, he leaves, saying they'll edit the video and he can see. Pekian runs back and starts reading everything. The script epically summarizes his journey to create the hideaway in the desert. Poor guy starts feeling bad, especially because the so-called surprise was just like that. Walking around the room and not knowing what to do in his past life, this surprise made a lot of money. The script seems to be following the same idea. What can make it different and popular? What is he going to do? He asks the system if he can remove the 1 million investment. The system says he can only remove it with a valid reason. Otherwise, it's considered a violation. Pekian tries to think of a valid reason, but there isn't one. He says the only way not to look like the successful movies is for the boss not to appear, so he won't act anymore, and sends a message saying he's been very busy lately and they should find another actor. Then he remembers that in the contract, he would have to pay 90,000 if he missed all the shoots. He asks the system if he can use it to pay the 90,000, but he warns that since it's a personal contract, he can't do that. He drops the phone. It's over for him. He decides that for things to work out, we'll have to lose even more money at the internet cafe. It's time to get everyone in this company to spend even more money on these projects. The next day, people are arriving there to do more filming. Xiao hands over a script this time and tells Pekian that yesterday's video is almost ready. He can relax, but Pekian doesn't seem very excited about it. The name of the script this time is giving 9 consecutive raises to my hardworking employees. He realizes there's a chance that could go viral. Xiao asks if it's too much for him. Pekian says no, they can continue filming. Xiao then says, let's start this. Pekian has an idea. What if he starts working half-heartedly? They'll use his terrible acting skills to ruin these series. He knows very well how terrible actors act, so all he has to do is imitate them. Xiao asks if they can start, and he says yes. He's not a professional, so the guy can't complain about his acting. Xiao then tells him to make a completely expressionless face, but he does nothing. Xiao then asks for another expressionless pose, and he does nothing. Xiao then asks him to maintain that expressionless face, but with a slight smile. He doesn't have much to do, so he gives a slight smile. Xiao asks him to do the same thing, but looking somewhat uncertain, and he does that. He asks him to pat his shoulder, and he does. He asks him to hand over a card, and he does. With that, everything is done, and they shake hands. Xiao thanks him and says he acts very well. It's incredible how he can make a completely expressionless face convey so many emotions. With that, they leave saying it was perfect. Surely, this film will do very well thanks to his acting skills. Pekian is confused. He didn't do anything at all? What is this guy doing? But he has a bad feeling. He realizes that Xiao had planned a video in which he wouldn't have to act at all. Clearly, he's nothing but a prop for filming. He doesn't have much chance to ruin it with his actions. The only hope now is that the game in the internet cafe will do poorly enough. Liang sends him the initial plan and it looks very luxurious, which means they spent a lot of money. He starts thinking about all the costs they'll have to maintain that. It's all shining when only the initial investments will exceed 3 million. The higher the cost, the more money he loses. This is wonderful. Liang says he'll try to speed up the projects as much as possible, and Pekian is touched. In the end, you can only count on friends. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door and Pekian tells them to come in. He tells the guy that he made some changes to parts of the game and the voices. Did he happen to take a look? The guy says yes, and Pekian asks what he thinks. The guy says he thought the game's dialogue was too humiliating for the player. Pekian says it's going too well. Pekian tells him not to worry about it and to start spending money right away to make some designs. But he has to understand that what he wants is the most expensive animation design of all. The guy is terrified. He already knows they'll be cursed by the entire industry for spending so much money on something so stupid. But if Boss P asked for it, he must have some plan for it. He leaves and asks if P. Kian wants to meet the artist he's going to hire. P. Kian says he doesn't need to since he doesn't understand anything about art. The guy leaves the room excited, happy that P. Kian trusts him so much. He returns to work thinking he needs something perfect. He starts searching all over the internet for someone who fits what he wants. Suddenly, he finds someone, the person who worked on Ghost General. He gets excited. It's someone who has already worked with Boss P and has very good art. On February 12th, P. Kian was returning home. Everything in the company was already complete, and he was going to visit his parents, but he didn't want to tell them anything about it. They would end up asking where he got the $50,000, and besides, his father is a bit old-fashioned and doesn't like games. So he enters the house, and his mother calls for him. His father from the sofa says the boy's back. Shining, he greets them both. He sees that the TV is too small and tells his father they should buy another one. His father says there's no need, he doesn't even watch TV properly. The washing machine is making a loud noise, and he asks why they haven't replaced it. His father says the motor is too expensive, and besides, there's no problem because it still washes clothes. P. Kian says they don't need to buy a motor. They just throw it away and buy another one. The father says he's suspicious because P. Kian wants to change a lot of things, and where is this money coming from? P. Kian says it's nothing special, and the father tells him to go change and wash his hands. But the father is just duping him. So he says that actually a friend invited him to act in a small movie and he got $30,000. That's it, nothing major. The father says it's impossible for his son to receive $30,000 for filming. It's more likely he paid $30,000 to be filmed. If I had a father, he'd mock me too. P. Kian complains to his father for not believing him, who says he'd only believe it if he saw the video. P. Kian says the video hasn't been properly produced yet. The mother tells them to stop chatting and eat already, so everyone eats. A little later, on the sofa, the mother asks where this movie will be shown. He says he has no idea, and the mother tells him to ask the director. Sios informs him that it was released and it's in the comedy genre with the name The Daily Life of Boss P. He rushes in, saying it's already out, and decides to show it to his parents, because this way he can pretend to act like a boss and not actually be a boss. He grabs the laptop and plays it for them to watch, but he's shocked to see it already has 200,000 views. The father finds the title The Daily Life of Boss P strange. P. Kian says he's acting as if he were the boss of a company. They then watch the video, which starts with the line, "I look at my Rolex not to see the time." But it ends quickly, and the parents ask, "Already over." It was kind of short. P. Kian tells them to keep watching while he goes to his room. The mother says her son acts very well as a boss. It seems like he has his own business. And the father says it doesn't make sense. What kind of boss has no expression at all? P. Kian closes the door, goes to the computer, and clearly looks quite sad. This disaster is getting popular. Everyone says he's an incredible actor. Seeing him being so lazy really reminds them of their own bosses. P. Kian doesn't know what to do, but he can rest assured. After all, there's no way to make money from this unless someone wants sponsorship. On the 22nd, he's back at the company, and unfortunately, it's already reached 500,000 views. As he was entering, he saw Xios talking to the employees about the success of the video. He kept repeating to himself that no matter how famous it gets, if it doesn't make money, it's great. As soon as he enters, everyone notices and comes to greet him. P. Kian asks if he's there to film, and Xios says yes. But first, they have to talk about sponsors. Clearly, P. Kian is trembling. He really doesn't want this at all. So with a very serious face, he tells Xios to come to his office now. Once seated, he informs him they received the first offer yesterday. Finally, they can start making some money. P. Kian even trembles his hand. The anime hasn't even properly aired yet, and he's already going to start making money. This won't work. Xios says it's sponsorship from a clothing company that wants them to use one of the characters and say a few lines. P. Kian asks how much they'll profit. The guy says it's not much, just 5,000. What does he think? P. Kian doesn't think it's good at all. For a small series, sponsorship should only be about 1,000 at first. If they start with about 5,000, how much will they earn by episode 10? He hits the table and says he'll make another suggestion, rejecting it. Xios is startled, but P. Kian is shining. Embarrassed, Xios asks why he's rejecting the offer. P. Kian says the most important thing when you have a business is long-term vision. If they accept this proposal for this shirt, it might end up having to change the script, which will affect future proposals. It would be a waste to let all this initial success die just for 5,000. Injured, he says this is the same as ruining one's own reputation. At that moment, Xios had a realization about the business world. While he's worrying about the 5,000, P. Kian is concerned about the intellectual property of that work. P. Kian says that for you to have absolute success, you can never sell your reputation. Xios says he's really right. He understood everything. P. Kian relaxes, finally managing to deceive the guy, and says he can turn down these offers. Kian says the only offer they'll accept is something over 100k, and the entire video will be about that product. Shios is shocked. First, 100k is a lot. Second, it's really hard to make an entire video about one product. But Kian says he can relax, he trusts the kid. With tears in his eyes, he says he gets it. Phew, Kian collapses on the sofa, assured he's cut 99% of the chance of this business making any money. Someone asks to enter the room, he adjusts himself and says, "Come in." It's the guy handling the games who brings news about the voice acting team. He contacted the staff and they even started recording some sessions. But he doesn't know which to choose, so why doesn't the boss take a look? Kian definitely wants to check that out. It's one of the most crucial parts to lose money. If he puts it under cursing a bunch of nerds, the guys will love that. Another has a seductive and gentle voice, definitely needs to reject her. But one voice is extremely ordinary and boring, so he tells the guy he can be that one. The voice is very unique, not to mention abrupt and poorly prepared. Clearly, the guys won't want to play that. The guy is hesitant to say anything, but Kian interrupts. If the problem is money, just pay more to that person. Let's go. The guy explains that, in fact, that voice was him recording as an example for the actors. Kian is shocked, asking, "Damn, you recorded that. Doesn't sound like your voice." The guy says yes, so how about he picks another one? Kian says he's decided now, and he wants that voice, but the employee says he doesn't even have recording equipment. Kian says no problem, just find the most expensive place in town and spend 3 days training there. The guy excitedly leaves humming. Kian wonders why he has so many talented employees, but now everything's perfect. On the 24th was the design meeting, and he told everyone he'd be away for 3 days to do the game's voice. The people are surprised. The game planner is also going to do the voices. He awkwardly says yes, not asking why, but he hopes everyone does a good job, and if they have any doubts, just talk to him. In the room, Lin Wan stands out. He wonders why she's paying so much attention to this script. She suddenly says she finally understands Chef P's intention. He asks if she's talking about the intention of having him as the voice. She says exactly, and it's an intention that's difficult to perceive. Indirectly and ironically, the emotionless voice contrasts with Chef P's daily life. Just take a look at the dialogues created by Chef himself. The narration makes you always pick the decisions that are the easiest for profit. But in this path of easy decisions, in the end, you lose everything. And the game makes fun of you for being a boss who only makes simplistic decisions without thinking long-term. You ultimately fail, not because of the narration, but because you can't discern right from wrong. Now he's excited, saying he finally understands why the boss wanted his voice. But one of the employees raises their hand and says it's strange, because even if you don't follow the voice, you can still fail. Lin Wan says that's the final touch of the game. Just knowing something's wrong won't make it right. If you follow the route where you always make nice decisions, in the end you have a mediocre game. The game demonstrates the balance between gaining reputation and focusing on profits. And now the people are finished. They were the team to make the game, but in the end, Boss P is taking care of everything. Lin Wan then says that's why he has to be the voice of this game. He not only knows the boss, but understands the game very well. He claps his hands and how excited too. Now it's clear why the boss wanted to change so much in the script, and then says he would never disappoint his expectations. On March 3rd, he's back at the company. Kian is rolling because he's sure he's lost a lot now. As he was about to enter the room, someone called out Baeksu's name. He turned around, startled. The damn guy was back from his 1-month break. He was gleaming, saying the vacation was wonderful. The guy asked if he wanted to take a look at the project, and Baeksu replied no, he trusts Boss P. The boss who thought the situation was perfect. The game is almost being developed, and Baeksu won't change anything. It's just if everything goes wrong, then finally the plan will be successful. As soon as Baeksu arrived, he grabbed a potato chip, grabbed a Coke, and went to the PC. It's been a month since he played anything, and finally he's back in paradise. However, while he plays, he says the game has a strange sensitivity. He decides to improve the game to optimize things since he's kind of idle. Since he has so much energy, he decides to also improve General Phantasma. He already closes the animated book. After resting so much, at most in 3 or 4 days, we'll finish this. 3 days later, the people playing General Phantasma are getting a bit tired of the game. Other games of the same genre have updates all the time, but theirs hasn't had anything yet. One player even left an angry comment saying he can't stand playing this anymore. This company is so relaxed. Are they afraid of making money? But suddenly they see one of the comments. One of the players said that all the bugs they were complaining about have finally been fixed. And the guy is in disbelief. And strangely, it's one of the few companies that actually did everything the players wanted. On the bus, everyone's excited. They thought Tangda had given up on General Phantasma. That same guy is betting then, for God's sake, to put something for him to buy. He wants to spend money on the game. On March 7th, Kian was furious in the room. He wanted to know why a bunch of people were asking to release new items to buy in General Phantasma. Gleaming Lin Wan said there are really a lot of people wanting to spend money on the game. Pekian's blood pressure is rising. He asks if she's sure they want to spend that much. She says she guarantees it. The discussion is even stirring up the forums. Afterward, Pekian asks why they want to spend so much money. The game was fine until recently. She explains that the players really like it and are afraid the game will shut down, so they want to provide financial support. Now the poor guy is devastated. His heart even stopped, who likes the game so much. Lin Wan asks if he's okay, what happened? He says to just reply that they're in the middle of planning, that's all. And they'll launch, I don't know, in May or June. He's got no choice. I'll have to do something. Lin Wan is startled. She didn't know they were already in the middle of the process because no one told her. He says not to jump the gun. They're still in the middle of planning. She apologizes and leaves. Pekian slumps in his chair, and unfortunately, the 3 games he wants to fail are turning into absolute successes. Why is it that since this system appeared, evil things keep happening to him? And the system has a rule that he can't let anyone find out that the game has to go bankrupt. If he takes 2 stupid actions, it may raise suspicions. He gets up thinking that as soon as they finish the game they're creating now, they'll update General Phantasma with something really stupid. But it's time to rush to the internet cafe to make sure nothing good happens there. He arrives at the entrance, which has a logo that's a Y with a fish. He's impressed. There's not a single Chinese letter or even English. It's definitely Mayang's doing. Entering, he thinks that doesn't explain absolutely anything about what's inside or what makes no one enter. Walking around, he notices everything looks really nice. The computers are already being set up, and there's even a clerk working. Mayang asks what he thinks. Is he satisfied? Is the bar good or the chairs good? What kind of books should they put in right now? They can put in some manga, some manhwa. What does the boss think? Pekian says no, he wants something much more innovative. He wants things that people will read and ultimately won't learn anything. Mayang asks for some examples of such books, and he says to put in books about the little history of Ukrainian tractors, a study book on small tractors, how I made a tractor for my homeland. Confused, Mayang asks why everything is about tractors. Pekian says he doesn't understand anything about elegance. He should just go online and search for the type of books pretentious kids like to read and buy all that doesn't make sense. Mayang just agrees and tells him to come take a look at the kitchen. They still hadn't decided who will be the cook, but a bunch of people applied for the position. He says it has to be someone specialized in home-cooked food, and Mayang says he can handle it. Pekian, with a mischievous smile, says he can always count on his best friend. But Mayang feels awkward and tells him to stop praising him so much or he'll become arrogant. They then go to the computer room, and Mayang pulls a chair, telling him to give it a try. As Pekian sits down, he realizes it's very comfortable as expected from a chair that costs a fortune. He tells Mayang that when people sit at the PC, they should be handed a cloth to clean their hands, just like in a fancy restaurant. Mayang says it's a bit too extravagant just for using a computer, but Pekian says it's a high-class place. That means the people who will frequent there are used to this kind of treatment. Also, this place will be smoke-free, so it's good to install a ventilation system. Mayang agrees, and suddenly Zhang comes and offers him a drink to try. He tastes it, puts it on the table, and wants to know what alcohol was used and how much it costs. Zhang says it's called Jungle Dawn juice and costs 50 yuan for just 1 glass. They're using grappa in the mix, which is a very expensive kind of liquor. Pekian wants to know what the cheapest item is, and Zhang says it costs 25 yuan but can be reduced. Pekian says to do the opposite and increase the price. Only rich people will come to this place. If you keep charging little, they'll think you're humiliating them. Zhang is startled by this kind of logic. But of course, Pekian is afraid of making good and cheap drinks in this place, starting to get busy. With the prices he wants, 2 hours here will cost the same as the whole day elsewhere. Clearly, it's a ripoff. So he says it's perfect for everyone and says he's leaving because he has other things to take care of. Mayang says they'll open the day after tomorrow, and they're thinking of charging half price as an opening event. Pekian says a high-class place doesn't get discounts. It's just for opening without any events. Mayang says okay, they won't organize anything then. With that, Pekian smiles. When things are up and running, he'll come back here to see this place as empty as it is now. On March 9th is the grand opening. Lots of people walk by, but no one enters. While cleaning the glasses, Zhang is even a bit discouraged. All the employees can do is sweep the clean floor and talk to each other, while Pekian drinks his coffee, obviously with a big grin on his face. Mayang says they should at least hand out flyers inviting people, but Pekian says they have to let people find it by chance and be surprised. Mayang is surprised. How are people going to find a place like this by chance? Suddenly, someone opens the store and walks in, taking a look around. Mayang comes all excited, offering a drink or coffee. Awkwardly, the guy asks how much it costs to browse for an hour. Gleaming, Mayang says it only costs 10 yuan per hour. The guy gets furious. It's too expensive. Do they think their computer is made of gold or something? Mayang honestly says no. There's nothing made of gold, and even he himself thinks it's a bit expensive. Awkwardly, the guy asks if there's any promotion or membership club. Mayang says yes, if he becomes a member, he'll receive a 10% discount on any drink. The guy looks at the prices, says his family is very poor, apologizes, and runs out of the place. Mayang is shocked, but that was obvious. Pekian even chuckles, all happy, thinking his friend really is a genius. He then tells Pekian that he doesn't think it will work since everyone who came in ran out because of the price. Pekian says it's true. It really can't continue like this. Mayang thinks the boss finally realized they'll need an event and promotion. Pekian tells him to put up a poster outside now of the giant price so all those people stop wasting their time. Mayang is startled. Why is that? Pekian says it's the best idea since they won't even have time to complain about the price. Poor Mayang didn't realize that was the solution. Pekian gets up and tells him not to worry. It's just the first day. He has to keep in mind that Tangdet's a long-term company, and these things will gradually improve. Mayang nods in agreement and Pekian leaves, telling him to give his best. He opens the door thinking that this place is really wonderful. At night, Zhang and Mayang were calculating part of the costs. They were writing down all the expenses of the place and found out that considering everything, they will lose 300,000 yuan per month. Finished, he tells Mayang that he needs to talk to Boss Pei. They can't continue like this. Mayang says the boss said they can discuss changes in a week. Zhang says it will already be the 21st, but Mayang says it's better to wait a week. He falls on the sofa, agreeing, while wondering for how many months he will be able to receive 10,000 yuan. Huang Sibyl went to visit Shang Yang Game, the company he used to work for. He calls someone saying he has arrived and says he will wait for that person in the usual place. Suddenly, a hand opens the door. He greets someone named Ma Dubio, who asks why he looks so tanned. Huang says it's because he's been working a lot outside the office, and Dubio asks what kind of work. Huang says he's now working on a movie and filming Chef P's daily life. Did he watch it by any chance? Dubio is surprised and wants to know everything he's doing. He's writing, directing, filming. Huang says it's nothing special. He just helps here and there. It's complicated to explain what he does. Dubio sheds tears of envy, congratulating him for really being able to work with what he wanted. Huang asks how his old company is doing. Dubio says it's the same as always, a company that sucks the life out of everyone. His boss is going crazy selling items for 888. It seems he's drawing inspiration from some kind of sea fortress. But obviously, when they launched that, they were cursed. And hearing this, Huang feels a little awkward and explains that this game can really only sell such expensive weapons because it's the only thing that sells. Dubio says it's crazy that this game really sells that 888 stuff. Huang explains that this was an item created just to give people who like to spend money something to buy. Dubio asks how he knows so much about the industry now that he's into movies. Fully convinced, Huang says he was actually the chief planner of that game. Dubio almost spilled his coffee disbelievingly. Huang says he can't believe it himself, so he can't explain properly. Sometime later, he already explained everything and assures that it's real. Suddenly, Dubio grabs his hand and begs him to please get a letter of recommendation, crying like a baby with tears even coming out of his nose. On the afternoon of March 16th, Pekian was looking at Ma Dubio's resume. He was all excited, saying the boss could call in whenever he wanted. Looking at the resume, Pekian says he doesn't see anything amazing. Also, it seems to be just a friend who's exhausted from the same work Huang came from. Since now there's no one in Huang's position, maybe putting in another amateur could be the perfect move. Dubio then hands him some stories and novels he's been writing. All happy, Pekian accepts, and is startled because the guy writes extremely well, and it would be dangerous to hire him. So he decides to try to find excuses to reject the guy and asks where he worked before joining this company. He says all he did was write web novels, and he thought he had a chance, but only 30 people bought them. Pekian shamelessly says maybe it wasn't his best work. Why doesn't he try another? Dubio explains that he has already written 3 stories. Actually, they seem good until they are published, and no one buys them. Huang says he must be developing the stories in some scary way for everyone to suddenly turn against him. Suddenly, Pekian gets excited, saying he's hired. The company is buzzing, and the staff has just received the game designs. Obviously, they came from Guan Jian, the guy who designed the General Phantasm. Pekian goes to talk to Lu Minglian, who stands up asking if he has any instructions. Pekian says it's nothing special. It's just that their company hired a new guy to write the story. Lu Liang says he understands and will have him redo all the synopses of the 3 games. Pekian says no, that's not the case, and he hesitates. The boss explains that it's actually someone not very familiar with games, so let him do whatever he wants in this first month. Lu Liang is startled. He's going to let the guy just look without doing anything for a month? Pekian says yes, especially things related to game design. Mingliang says it's okay, he'll get some materials for the guy to learn a lot. With that, Pekian leaves, and Ming Liang thinks the boss already believes the game is perfect, so he's totally excited. Suddenly, Pekian appears and asks what art this is. On the screen, there's a werewolf monster attacking. Pekian says it looks strangely familiar. Ming Liang asks if he noticed. That's a creation of the great Huang Guanjian. While Pekian is devastated, Lin Yang says their hearts are obviously connected for him to have noticed so quickly. Pekian says he hired the most expensive artist of all. Ming Liang explains that after General Phantasm Huang Jian became one of the most expensive artists to hire. Pekian gets angry. Damn it, the guy used to be one of the cheapest and became one of the most expensive with his work. Ming Liang delivers the worst news. Huang Jian still hasn't charged anything because of the old times. Pekian asks if they can't change the contract, and Ming Liang says unfortunately not. Pekian then leaves, saying he can continue working. He enters the room, closes the door, and his heart breaks. He wonders what he's doing wrong. Why would one of the most expensive people now also want to work for free? But now all he can do is wait for the result. Thankfully, this game isn't focused on graphics. Suddenly, Ma Yang knocks on the door, calling for him. Pekian is startled, afraid that something else right has happened. Ma Yang enters the room, saying he needs to talk about the internet cafe. Then he informs Pekian that according to his calculations, they will lose 300,000 this month. This news makes Pekian's eyes shine. Ma Yang stands up and says he has some suggestions he and Zhang thought of. He tries to hand them to Pekian, telling him to take a look. Pekian says there's no need since things are going in the right direction. While he's all happy about losing 300,000 per month, Ma Yang asks how it can be the right direction if they're losing 300,000. Pekian explains that in high-class places, you usually have to buy reputation with money. With his hand on his shoulder, he says they won't have to worry about the number of clients when the reputation is good enough. Just be patient. Ma Yang is kind of at a loss for words, and Pekian says he can trust him, thinking this is the only way for him to lose money since the game and the novel are doing well. On March 25th, the game had already been developed, and it was time for the optimization phase. Pekian tested it and felt so sleepy, thinking Ming Liang's voice is amazing. How can he sound so uninteresting and boring at the same time? The narration cursing him makes him so angry he feels like going there right now and hitting Ming Liang. Besides walking through the corridors and being cursed, there's nothing else to do in this game. This time the game is perfect. Now they just have to wait for it to be released and it will surely lose money. Ming Liang went to ask Baksu what he thought of the game. Dubio overheard them talking and it was all too tedious. He says besides Lin Wan, no one else is confident in the game. Dubio says he feels like that game seems special. Baksu says those who get too involved with the project can't see things from afar. For them, it seems tedious because they know where each of the choices will lead. Since he didn't participate in this project, the game feels unique to them. Dubio agrees. It's such a unique game that it doesn't even fit into a category. At his old company, they would never have accepted this. He explains that where he came from, they don't take any risks. He's thrilled that here at Tangda, the boss is so involved with the project and still innovative. However, Bao-Xu says this game is extremely risky, and ultimately it all depends on the market. Ming Liang doesn't understand if the game is good or bad, and Bao-Xu says that in his opinion, Boss P has always been a loner. Ming Liang says it's possible. Boss P is always upbeat and charismatic. Bao-Xu asks if he remembers the meeting they had. Ming Liang says he does. At that meeting, Boss P was silent and barely ate as if he were thinking about many other things. Bao-Xu asks him if the game was successful and everyone was celebrating. Why wasn't he hungry? The only answer to that is because Boss P has a deep loneliness within him. Just notice that in the General Boss, he charges 30 for Eternal VP Kian. This is because he's trying to make a joke of the entire industry. From the Lonely Desert Highway until now, Boss P has always criticized this industry. Ming Liang says he's starting to understand, but what if this fails? Dubio says the best artists are always ahead of their time. If the game fails, it's not a problem for the boss, but rather the community that isn't yet prepared for something so good. Bao-Xu says he's not sure if people are prepared for it, but in the future, they surely will be. He then asks how the game will be promoted. Ming Liang says he'll ask him. Facing the boss, he's scared to ask. Pekian stands silent. The meeting of the five fools begins to see who knows how to do the worst promotion. One of them says the best promotion will be to not promote it again. However, the other says that with Tangda's current reputation, no matter what they do, everyone will at least take a look. Since it's inevitable that the game will be promoted, maybe the best thing is to promote it as much as possible and spend a lot of money. However, they can't use anything that might work. It has to be something extremely expensive and extremely ineffective. And he tells Ming Liang that they'll spend all the promotion money on content creators. Lian is shocked. This is a cheap method, but extremely ineffective. They'll just lose money. Ming Liang asks why they don't use the fame from Boss P's daily life to boost sales of the game. However, Pekian refuses, saying it might interfere with the series. Besides, that Huang is very dangerous. Imagine if he manages to include both of them extremely well. Ming Liang then says he can try contacting creators with many followers. P. says that's the best idea. They'll provide a list of names and the amounts they can act according to. On another day, Gao was eating instant noodles. That's because it was all he could afford with what he was receiving. Watching Boss P's daily life, he envied, thinking that guy must receive a lot of money and sponsorship. When suddenly he received a notification. It was a message from Ming Liang offering collaboration. He replied immediately that he was available. In the negotiation, as soon as Ming Liang appeared, he set a 3,000 offer. The guy was impressed. 3,000 was enough for him to do nothing for the rest of the month. He agreed and asked what kind of video it was. Ming Liang sent the files and said it was mandatory for him to read everything written there. He took a look and was shocked. It was an extremely forced script, saying things like, "Wow, this is amazing. Whoever produced this game is very talented. Really, all players need to give this a chance." Seeing that script, he felt embarrassed. It's shameful to do something like that. Ming Liang said that if he wanted, he didn't have to show his face, but it would be good. The guy was furious. This video would ruin his reputation. He then said he couldn't accept that job. It would be better to find someone else. Ming Liang asked if it were 4,000. The guy stopped immediately, thinking it's up to 4,000? Just that increase was more than he usually receives from other companies. He then asked if he could at least play the game to test it, but Ming Liang said the game is still in development, but they can provide videos for him to edit. Poor guy was devastated. He won't even be able to test the game. All he'll have to do is read the script, survive, and then earn 4 grand. The problem is other companies will see this and think he does a lousy job when he gets commissioned. The guy asked if he could post the promotional video in this section for trashy games, but Ming Liang said he couldn't do that. The guy said he could relax since the trash section recommends 10 times more than the recommended ones of the month. Once he went there and badmouthed a game called Desert Highway, and that game became very successful. He decided to take a look again to see the name of the company. At that moment, he had a bad feeling. He tries to remember the name of the guy who sent the proposal but can't. Ming Liang says then he already worked with Boss P. And that's very good. Now no wins for Tengda. The guy is all excited. Ming Liang says then he'll ask Boss P. if everything's okay. While the guy thinks it's impossible for that P. guy to have already become the owner of such a big company. He probably must hate him now for badmouthing Desert Highway so much. Ming Liang returns and warns that the game cannot be posted in this section just for trashy games and must follow the script perfectly. Also, people can't think it's ironic. The guy is devastated. He's sure this is P. revenge for badmouthing his game. Hesitant, he apologizes, saying he really can't do it. Suddenly, the offer increases to 6 grand. Smiling, he says he already confirmed with the boss. The guy is now almost giving in. 6 grand is enough for him to stall for 2 months. He's about to say it's not about the money, when Ming Liang increases it to 10 grand. He sees the wad of notes falling on his head. He's crushed, and he won't be able to refuse anymore. He stands up saying it really isn't about money, it's about the old friendship he has with Boss P. And Ming Liang says it's good to hear that and hands over the files with the materials. And the guy thinks people will understand. After all, 10 grand is 10 grand. Ming Liang told P. that the guy accepted and he was excited. He knows very well that it was that damn guy who made him lose 50 grand in the past, and now he'll get his revenge by humiliating this guy. P. asks about the other creators on the list, and Ming Liang says that after raising the price a lot, half accepted and half declined. And the argument that convinced them the most was talking about the other creators who also accepted. P. thinks that even though it's extremely embarrassing, with money, people can be bought. And he says that since Kyle's payment will be the highest of all, he tells him to post first. April Fool's Day arrived, and it was right on the day of the prank. Poor Kyle was sweating and shaking with his hand on the mouse. He thought that the game and video launch on April Fool's Day were all part of P. plan. At least it's April Fool's Day, which will make some viewers think it's a joke. He says enough of this. He's going to do this right away. After torture to record this thing, he throws his phone on the table. Now he's got the money and done the work. It's just a matter of relaxing for 2 months. People already started commenting that he had posted and went to take a look. His video was so cringeworthy. He said things like, "Hello, my darlings, your uncle is back today to make a great game for you. The folks at Incredible Tangda sent me this game called Gamer Designer. It's amazing." In the comments, everyone was already saying it had to be April Fool's for sure. They were just curious how much he got paid to do something so shameful. Anyone who saw that was in a dilemma. Clearly, the video was supposed to make you not want to play the thing. It was created by Tangda or what made them want to play. Some said they didn't even need to test that to be sure it was rubbish. But they started to find it strange. Several creators they followed posted the video. And besides, everyone followed the same script and made the same jokes. They started to wonder what the heck that was. In the company, P. was excited. The goal had been achieved. He tried to make it as clear as possible that this was poorly made advertising so that no one would like it, and really no one did. Really controlling the comments people made was the best possible choice. The game is priced at 28 yuan, which is the minimum the system allowed to set. According to calculations, this game cost a total of 3 million. They would need to sell at least 300,000 copies just to make any profit. Even if there are some masochists who enjoy suffering, there aren't 300,000 of them. That night, Kyle was in his room looking at his phone. He was checking out the new games. However, everything was the same, even the instant noodles were bland. He said he needed to understand this situation and went to his PC. Even though his reputation had been tarnished, he needed to know what this was about. He bought the game to test it. As soon as it appeared, the game told him that it was a story about creating games. He would have to create a game that could save the current gaming industry. He shouted that he would definitely create the best game. His job was simple. Think of an idea, create a game, surprise people, and make his colleagues jealous. Pay everyone for promotion, make many sales, and then profit. Then just repeat. With this, he would win the prize for the best game of the year. But right now, the first objective is to make a successful game in this brutal market. Kyo was impressed, and strangely the game had very good graphics. Sometime later, he put down the controller, and the art was also one of the best. The narration was annoying at first, but he realized over time that it was the essence of the game. The most impressive part was that it showed the decision-making process of someone working in the industry. The voice of the choices always showing what is easy demonstrates the greed in everyone's heart. Some people become exhausted with the creation process and gradually give up, while others strive to keep the faith, while some give up their dreams and become what they hated the most. Now he finally began to understand why the game was made this way. He had to open a new column, and its name would be Product of the Gods. In the company, there was absolute silence. Everyone was staring at the papers and not saying anything. Lin Wan broke the silence, warning that the marketing they did not only didn't help, but apparently hindered it. And besides, the first people who played didn't leave good reviews. Ming Liang wonders if his first project as a boss was really that bad. Baoksu takes another look and lays the paper on the table. Like a monk, he says it's just a matter of waiting. Everything must be part of Boss P's plan. What they could do, they did. The rest is destiny. The Kyle was excited to put the game in the column where only the best stay. The chat people asked if he came back after so long without saying anything. But he was motivated to change this career crisis for greater success. He then opened a live on game design, and he told everyone that he needed to confess something. They told a lie on April 1st. It was a large-scale performance. And now, with regret, he will have to announce the results of that experiment. Everyone was scared, wanting to know what he was talking about. He explained that it was an idea from Tangda to delve into a deep topic. They wanted to find out if what was said about the game was more important than the game itself. And in the end, what was most important was according to the former. They had to make some scripts that proved to everyone that they had been bought. With so many identical videos, everyone started to hate the game. However, in reality, the game designer is extremely rich in its content. It not only exposes the current crisis in the gaming industry, but also plays with the chaos that happens within it. Even the voice and art over the game show how much creativity and sincerity they put into it. However, even with all this, what happened to this game? A lot of player disapproval just because of public opinion. But now he will show detail by detail why this is a game that deserves to be in the category of Product of the Gods. And with that, Kiao eats his instant noodles, saying it's done. That day at the company meeting, Kian was celebrating and smiling. But everyone else was depressed, and he asked why no one was eating. He asked Baoksu what was wrong. Dubio was also sad. Huang was awkward, didn't know what to say. But Kian was smiling a lot. It had been a long time since he felt so good. The physical place was only causing a loss of 300,000 per month. The miniseries was a success, but it hadn't made any profit since they didn't accept any sponsorship. And at the rate the game designer is going, they won't even be able to cover the costs, but everything seems better than ever to him. P. Keating was smiling and drinking, and Ming Liang wanted to know why the boss seemed so happy that day. Baoksu says he misunderstood everything. Actually, Boss P is the one who can't be seen sad. With the game designer not doing very well, everyone is feeling bad. How would people feel in this place if even the boss were sad? Ming Liang says he understands, so Boss P is trying to affect everyone with optimism. Baeksu agrees. He is the true leader who, when things are going badly, acts with optimism. And when things are going well, he acts with caution. He is the kind of person who always faces reality as accurately as possible. And he is an idealist who always does the right thing even if it goes against his personal interests. For them, Boss P is a light in the darkness of this world. Lin Wan agrees that they can't give up on things and that everything will get better. Baoksu says that if the boss hasn't given up, they can't give up either. Now everyone is excited, saying it's too early to say the game has failed. And with that, they toast. At that moment, Huan Sibo is asking if it's the best time to talk to the boss. Sio says yes, he thinks it's the best time since he's upset about the game designer. With this news, they will give the boss a little confidence. Huan Sibo says he's not sure if such a simple sight will help boost the boss's morale, but it doesn't hurt to try, right? So they decide to talk to P. who goes and toasts with them. Then Huan says he has great news. Pekin is already startled. Here comes this damn guy trying to ruin his joy, and then says he can tell him the news. Yahello says there's a site that's emerging that wants to pay a certain amount for Boss P's daily life to be shown only on their site. Huan says it's a new site, but they have great benefits for creators. Boss P is afraid it's YouTube and he'll start making a lot of money. So he asks Huan what the name of the site is. Huan says the name of the site is Ali Island. Pekin is confused. He's never heard of this site. In that case, he pats him on the shoulder and says it's great work. As long as it's not that famous site, he'll definitely lose money. They both get excited, saying they'll work even harder. Suddenly, someone in the meeting shouts that they'll be invincible like this. Boss P turns to see what it is. The kid says one of the official platforms left a lot of praise on their game and even put it on the homepage. Pekin is shocked. What's this talk about a platform and homepage? Ming Liang rushes with his phone saying a lot of people have already liked this video, kids. 1 part 3 at our money loser. Activate the cheeky little bell. And I'm out.